Chapter 659. In the B class, Wang Kai had always been curious about the transfer of the sky-devouring technique, and now he had witnessed it with his own eyes. However, the scene that he saw made Wang Kai somewhat unable to continue watching, and his scalp went numb. Sun Guantian had actually crushed the corpses of Yu Zixin and Hunluo Tian into pieces, and then swallowed the pieces into his stomach with the power of the heavens. Finally, he used the transfer of the sky-devouring technique to turn the swallowed flesh into the power of the heavens. If Wang Kai had known that the transfer of the sky-devouring technique would have such a process, he would not have stayed to watch, even if he was beaten to death. Now that he had only seen it once, he already felt extremely nauseous. He left the room to Sun Guantian and hurriedly left. Such a secret technique is truly evil. No wonder that disciple was expelled from the sky-reaching school. Wang Kai stood in the courtyard, shaking his head and sighing repeatedly. Such a transfer of the sky-devouring technique was simply more terrifying and evil than killing one's own sect members. What do you know? Sun Guantian was forced to choose the forbidden move of the sky-devouring technique, using the flesh of others as the source of power to devour. If it was the sky-reaching bead or other treasures that contain the power of the heavens, he would only need to extract the power from them. As Cat Lord's voice rang out in his mind, Wang Kai's expression immediately froze. In that case, it was still his fault? Wang Kai's expression was rather disdainful as he shrugged his shoulders. Even if he was given another chance, he would still choose not to help Sun Guantian. Even if Sun Guantian died in front of him, he would not care about him at all. In the end, he was an ingrate. Wang Kai naturally would not allow such a thing to happen again. Now, because Sun Guantian was still considered loyal, he just chose not to cause trouble for him. After all, everyone had their own ambitions. In that case, why didn't he use the sky-reaching bead? Even if all the heavenly jewels were taken away by Sun Guandi, as long as he asked Ben Xiao, wouldn't it be easy to get the heavenly jewels? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and asked with a puzzled expression. In response, Cat Lord fell silent. After a long while, he said, "The biggest reason why it is called a taboo technique is that it is not tolerated by heaven and earth. Of course, there are pros and cons. The pros are that it can allow one's cultivation to rise rapidly without any bottlenecks. However, in the end, it will only lead to self-destruction. Did his cultivation advance so quickly without any bottlenecks? It was worth it." Wang Kai couldn't help but rub his nose. He turned around and swept his gaze over the room, sensing the surging heavenly chi inside. He sighed in his heart. "I wonder if my blood essence will be able to stop him from reaching his end." But now that things had come to this, there was no turning back. For the time being, even Wang Kai himself didn't know whether he could save Sun Guantian. "B-class disciples, hurry up and get out here. Those who are slow will die." Suddenly, following a series of loud shouts, over 1,000 disciples entered the hall in a single file. Amongst them, the words heavenly jewels were embroidered on their Taoist robes. From this, it could be seen that the weakest amongst them were inner court disciples. Among them, there were quite a few core disciples as well. At the same time, the A class, C class, and D class also had a similar scene. In fact, almost all the A class disciples were core disciples. Within the inner court and the core hall, investigations had also begun. These disciples had come to the outer court because their positions in the inner court and core hall were not high. Even if they stayed, they would not be able to compete with stronger disciples. Thus, they might as well come to the outer court to try their luck. TSK. Looks like Ben Xiao's charisma is indeed extraordinary to have attracted so many disciples to take the initiative to pay him a visit. Sigh. Being too strong in the limelight is not a good thing. Wang Kai shrugged and shook his head as he sighed. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Patter, patter, bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the doors to all the B-class disciples' rooms were flung open. Inside, all the outer court disciples quickly walked out with cold sweat dripping down their foreheads. They naturally knew who the goddess wanted to capture. However, they knew that they could not beat Wang Kai, nor could they beat the inner court and core disciples. They might as well not participate and ensure that they did not cause any trouble. It could be said that in the outer court, only Yu Zaxian and Hunluo Tian dared to scheme against Wang Kai. This was also the main reason why they had once been able to become the overlords of the outer court. Courage and ambition were not something that everyone possessed. Even if they did, those who dared to do it were few and far between. All of you, line up and wait for the interrogation. That's right. Whoever answers beautifully will be heavily rewarded. Yes, whoever doesn't answer well. They will die here and save themselves from being outer court trash. Ha. Suddenly, the numerous inner court and core disciples all laughed loudly. Yes, senior brothers and senior sisters. The B-class outer court disciples didn't dare to get angry when they heard this, nor did they dare to speak. They didn't even dare to show any displeasure, because they were very clear that these people were all inner court and core disciples. Any one of them could easily take their lives. Moreover, no one would seek redress for them. Even the outer court elders didn't have the qualifications to order and reprimand them. Kid, didn't you hear what I said? Why are you still standing there like an idiot? Are you waiting for death? You piece of trash. Quickly get over there and stand properly. Damn it. Outer court trash. By the time the numerous B-class disciples had lined up neatly, Wang Kai's lonely figure was extremely obvious. It was to the extent that it caused the inner court and core disciples to open their mouths and curse in unison. Wang Kai, who originally wanted to walk into the ranks and avoid causing trouble, instantly frowned when he heard these words. Did I give you a little face? Who are you talking to? A bunch of worthless trash have the nerve to come to the outer court and show off? How many heads do you have? Are they enough for Ben Xiao to chop? You piece of shit. Wang Kai's face darkened as he berated with a rather disdainful expression. Swish! Everyone present was dumbstruck when they heard this. Even the inner court and core disciples were dumbstruck. They couldn't believe that there would be such a fearless disciple in the weakest outer court. Putting aside the fact that they didn't listen, they actually dared to refute and curse without the slightest bit of concealment. What? You don't even dare to speak? Are you all stupefied? A bunch of trash that bully the weak and fear the strong. After seeing Ben Xiao's might, dominance, and handsomeness, you're all scared like mice that have seen a cat. Weren't you acting all high and mighty just now? Wang Kai shrugged as he sneered with a disdainful and mocking expression. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Chapter 660. Bastard. Take my punch. Go to hell. Buzz. Suddenly, one of the inner court disciples came back to his senses. He stomped on the ground furiously, raised his fist, and smashed it toward Wang Kai's head. At the same time, the rest of the inner disciples and core disciples were watching from the side with sneers on their faces. In their opinion, Wang Kai would definitely die. Take your punch? Go to hell. Do you think Ben Xiao is putting on a show with you? When the strong kill people, they are generally indifferent and silent. Well, just like this young master, I am strong and insightful, and my silence is explosive. Wang Kai shrugged, and with a rather disdainful expression, he raised his arm and swept it forcefully. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 6th grade Heavenly King stage. Buzz, bang, crack. In an instant, as Wang Kai raised his arm and swept down, that inner court disciple's fist was directly blown to pieces. Even his body was violently sent flying back. Plop. Wah. Cough. Heavenly King stage. The outer disciple fell to the ground, trembling with half of his broken arm. He covered it with his other hand as blood spurted out. Heavenly King? Swoosh. When these words were spoken, it immediately caused the expressions of many disciples to change. Even the faces of the core disciples turned a little black, while their eyes were filled with fear. Among those present, the strongest disciple's cultivation was only at the peak of the Heavenly King stage. They could be called kings in the outer sect, but they were the weakest disciples in their respective inner and core palaces. Otherwise, they would not have been forced to come to the outer sect to try their luck to find Wang Kai. After all, everyone thought that a disciple who could anger the goddess Yasinyan would not be weak. Therefore, the truly powerful disciples of the Sky Reaching School would not choose to come to the outer sect. Thinking about it, a weak outer court disciple could be killed by a single glance from the goddess. So how could she be enraged? Who are you? A heavenly king stage cultivator is definitely not just an outer court disciple. A core disciple said coldly. This core disciple had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He wore a black Taoist robe, and his body was extremely tall and sturdy. At a glance, one could tell that he was a ferocious and valiant person. As for his cultivation level, he belonged to the highest among those present. He was at the 7th stage of the heavenly king realm. Among the inner court disciples, the strongest was only at the 2nd stage of the heavenly king stage. The strongest inner court disciples who did not come were only at the 5th stage of the heavenly king stage. It was even worse than Wang Kai's current realm. Moreover, the inner disciples and core disciples who came were not the strongest in their respective fields. It was impossible for them to fight with Wang Kai. Well, you guessed it right. Ben Shao isn't an outer disciple. He's the future hierarch of the Sky Reaching School. Well, he used to be the ruler of the Sky Province. He has 30 million beauties in his harem and countless soldiers under his command. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and said with a proud smile, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points." Whoosh! Hearing these words, the corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently on the spot. Naturally, they thought that Wang Kai was bragging. Why are you talking nonsense with him? Just kill him. Bang! Suddenly, a man who was less than a meter tall walked out of the crowd. Wherever he passed, regardless of whether it was the core disciples or the inner court disciples, they all took the initiative to make way for him. Even the tall and sturdy disciple's eyes were filled with fear as he turned his body to the side. If Senior Brother Gongsun is willing to take action, then I can rest assured. The tall and sturdy disciple cupped his fists and smiled. Gongsun is not afraid. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and looked at the short disciple in surprise. He could not help but smile strangely and said, "Your name is interesting. Not afraid, not erect. No wonder you're so small. I'm afraid that even a woman's legs are taller than yours. It's natural for you to be erect." Whoosh! When Gongsun Buju saw that the disciples were afraid of him and treated him with respect, he was secretly pleased with himself. However, before he could reply, he was shocked by Wang Kai's words and his face stiffened. At this moment, everyone was speechless on the spot. In particular, the silent and fearful outer court disciples were even more impressed by Wang Kai's ability to stir up trouble. He was simply digging his own grave. "What's your name? I never kill nameless people." Gongsun Buju's face darkened as he said coldly. The strength of heaven that erupted from the short man, who was less than a meter tall, was extremely terrifying. Everyone present was shaken to the point of retreating continuously. Even the tall and sturdy disciple was shaken to the point of taking 2 steps back. Looking at the outer court disciples, they had already vomited blood and fallen to the ground. Peak level 7 Heavenly King. Although he was at the same cultivation level as the tall and sturdy disciple, his actual combat strength was several times higher than the tall and sturdy disciples. Or rather, it could not be measured by multiple. Level 1 Strength of Heaven. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and looked at the short core disciple with a surprised expression. This was the first disciple that he had met since he came to the Sky Reaching School to display the strength of heaven. Although the Divine Son, Holy Son, and the others must also possess the strength of heaven, he had never seen them display it. Yes, this is level 1 Strength of Heaven. Although I'm only a level 7 Heavenly King, I can use level 1 Strength of Heaven to defeat and level 8 Heavenly King Expert. Tell me your name. There has never been a nameless person under my blade. Gongsun Buju sneered proudly. Clap, clap. Wang Kai immediately clapped his hands when he heard that. He looked at Gongsun Buju with a mocking gaze and said disdainfully, "You are just a level 1 strength of heaven. How can you act so shamelessly? Are you kidding me?" The strength of heaven was the exclusive source of power for heavenly martial artists. Normally, when one reached the heavenly soldier realm, one could transform battle chi into the strength of heaven. However, the strength of heaven was just an ordinary power. If the strength of heaven was given a grade, then there would be an earth-shattering change in one's strength. Once it was used, it would be easy for one to kill an enemy of a higher level. However, even though Gongsun Buju had level 1 strength of heaven, Wang Kai did not care at all. Wang Kai was now a level 4 strength of heaven. He could totally defeat a level 9 heavenly king expert and even a level 1 heavenly lord expert from a level 6 heavenly king expert. Of course, this was under the premise that the opponent had not cultivated the strength of heaven to a grade. Tell me your name quickly. Gongsun Buju was so angry that his body trembled slightly. He gritted his teeth so hard that it seemed like they would shatter in the next moment. Being ignored and mocked by Wang Kai, Gongsun Buju was on the verge of going crazy. Tell me your name. Tell me your name. Are you an idiot? Can't I kill you if you don't tell me your name? That's great. You could just stand there and let Bin Shao beat you up. Anyway, if Bin Shao doesn't tell me your name, you won't fight back. Wang Kai sneered with disdain. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Kai took the initiative to attack. With a tap of his foot, he appeared in front of Gongsun Buju in an instant. His level 4 strength of heaven gathered on his fist without any reservation. Chapter 661. Bang! Rumble! Suddenly, something that Wang Kai did not expect happened. Gongsun Buju did not choose to dodge and was directly sent flying by the punch. He crashed into the wall of the B compound, causing it to crumble. He did not report his name and did not fight back. Even though he realized that Wang Kai's cultivation level and the level of the power of heaven were far above his, he did not move his body to dodge. What kind of weird personality was this? It was very easy to die, okay? Wang Kai was speechless, especially when he saw the dumbfounded expressions of the many core disciples, inner disciples, and even outer disciples. He felt even more helpless in his heart. Brother Buju, Bin Shao admires your personality, but your pretentiousness is a little too much, Wang Kai said with a shrug. Walala, Gongsun Buju crawled out from the pile of rubble. His face was scratched, and his clothes were torn. His shoulder that was hit by Wang Kai had caved in. However, he did not let out a scream, allowing his injuries to heal automatically and allowing the pain to stimulate his nerves. Tell me your name. Under my blade, I never kill nameless people. Wah! Bang! Before he could finish speaking, he was once again sent flying into the air by Wang Kai with a slap. A few teeth and blood sprayed out of his mouth. Plop! As Gongsun Buju's body fell to the ground, he smashed a deep hole in the ground. However, something that shocked Wang Kai happened again. Gongsun Buju crawled out of the pit slowly. His veins were bulging on his forehead, and he half bent his body. He stared coldly at Wang Kai and said incoherently, "Come here. Fire blinds me. Hasty beheading." Wah! Plop! Before he could finish his incomprehensible words, he fell face first onto the ground. He had already fainted on the spot from Wang Kai's 2 attacks. You can still act tough before fainting. Not bad, Bin Shao admires you. In the future, you will be Bin Shao's right-hand man. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a smile. Wang Kai was naturally happy to take such an interesting person under his wing. No matter how strong or how high his status was, if he did not have a good impression of Wang Kai, he would not be invited to join him. From this, it could be seen that Gongsun Buju's weird style was very satisfactory to Wang Kai. Senior brother. Wah. Bang. Crack. The burly disciple was just about to say something when he was sent flying out of the B compound by Wang Kai with a kick. Senior brother? If you can't beat me, then you're the senior brother. If you can beat me, then you're the trash of the outer sect. Who gave you the right? All of you get out. Bin Xiao is unlucky to see you. Wang Kai scolded with a scowl. He hated people who bullied the weak and feared the strong the most. Gongsun Buju was a little better. Although he was arrogant, at least he had some dignity. He did not report his name and did not fight back even if he died. Although he was a little silly, he was still not bad overall. Thank you for not killing me, senior brother. Thank you, senior brother. Get out of here. Cut the crap. Wang Kai felt more and more disdain when he saw those disciples respectfully cupping their fists and bowing to him before fleeing. He immediately waved his hand impatiently and scolded them. Whoosh! In an instant, the originally extraordinarily bustling B division was only left with outer court disciples, and all of them were dumbstruck as they looked at Wang Kai with disbelief. They could not believe that the B compound had such an awesome person. He had easily chased the inner sect and core disciples out of the B compound. Moreover, he had even beaten the two strongest core disciples, who were at the Heavenly King stage, to the point that they could not fight back. Although Gongsun Buju's strength wasn't considered to be overwhelming, that burly disciple was still forced to retreat by Gongsun Buju. He did not even have the strength to fight back. Moreover, some of the more astute disciples believed that Wang Kai's cultivation and battle strength were definitely above Gongsun Buju's. Even if Gongsun Buju fought back, he was definitely not Wang Kai's match. Senior brother, are you a B compound disciple? Yes. Why haven't we seen you before? Soon, those outer sect disciples came forward to get close to him. In their opinion, Wang Kai was an outer sect disciple like them, so it should be easy to befriend him. However, the result disappointed them. Wang Kai shrugged and snorted with disdain. All of you, get out of here and do what you should do. You don't even know how to fight back when the enemy attacked. Now that you are safe and sound, you are all excited. Swoosh! Hearing this, many outer sect disciples felt their faces turn red and their hearts were filled with shame. However, they did not regret it. After all, if they had resisted, they would have died. In the outer sect, how many disciples could have Wang Kai's level of cultivation? After those outer sect disciples laughed dryly and waved their hands to disperse, Wang Kai flicked his finger and sent a drop of blood essence into Gongsun Buju's body. Get up. Follow Bin Xiao from now on. Yes, you will eat and drink well, sleep with beautiful women, and go to high-end restaurants and tea houses. If you want, you might even be able to become the ruler of the Sky region. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Swoosh! Gongsun Buju instantly opened his eyes. After hearing Wang Kai's words, he did not care about how his injuries had healed. He immediately got up and said sternly, "You want to subdue me? In your dreams. In this world, the person who can make me submit hasn't been born yet." Clap, clap. Such words caused Wang Kai's eyes to light up. He quickly clapped his hands and praised. Not bad, not bad. You have the potential to brag. I've always been straight with my words. I've never boasted or exaggerated. Don't think that I'm on the same level as you. Gongsun Buju snorted disdainfully. Listening to his bold words and his short stature, which was less than a meter tall, he even waved his arms as he spoke, as if he was being funny. Wang Kai could not help but laugh. Since you are so awesome, why did you come to the outer sect? As a core disciple, you are only at the 7th stage of the Heavenly King stage. Bin Xiao remembered that among the core disciples, the Heavenly King disciples were very common, right? Could it be that you were forced to come to the outer sect to try your luck? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and smiled playfully. Swish! As soon as these words were spoken, Gongsun Buju's face immediately froze. It was as if he had been hit on the mark. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. TSK, TSK. Looks like I've guessed it right. Actually, the matter is very simple. Someone who can anger the goddess must be very strong. Yes, it's impossible for such a person to exist in the outer court. Unfortunately, you're not strong enough and can only be forced to try your luck in the outer court. Swish! Before Wang Kai could finish speaking, Gongsun Buju's eyes narrowed. He suddenly grinned and sneered. The outer sect is not without powerful people. Haha, are you talking about Ben Shao? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and laughed. Chapter 662. If you're a man, tell me your surname. When the time comes, we still don't know who will win. Gong Sun Buju snorted. As he spoke, his face was full of confidence. It was as if defeating Wang Kai was a piece of cake. This piqued Wang Kai's curiosity. It was strange. Where did he get his confidence from? Thinking of this, Wang Kai shrugged and smiled calmly. Niuzha Tian. Swoosh. Hearing this, Gong Sun Buju's gaze went blank, and he only reacted after a long while. He stared at Wang Kai in shock and exclaimed, "There's actually such a name in this world? You're not playing with me, are you?" The surname Yo was not wrong, but Jetian, it was really strange. Ben Shao will never change his name. Niu Jetian, you are Lord Niu. Now that you know my name, show me your supreme, godly skill. Wang Kai curled his lips and smiled casually. However, just as Wang Kai thought that Gong Sun Buju was really powerful, he saw a bright smile on Gong Sun Buju's face. He grinned and said, "I will not give you the chance to see my real cultivation level. Therefore, this battle is over." What the hell? What the hell? After all this fuss, this fella is actually a weakling. Then, was his previous toughness just a show off? Wang Kai was instantly dumbstruck, and he was speechless to the extreme in his heart. However, he became more and more interested in Gong Sun Buju. Even if he was showing off, he had not seen many people who could show off to such an extent. After all, he could have killed him at any time. You're good at showing off. Ben Shao is very satisfied. Follow Ben Shao from now on. No matter how big Tianzhou is, as long as you follow Ben Shao, you can do whatever you want. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully showing off. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Acting tough. Gong Sun Buju was extremely disdainful when he heard this. He swayed his small arms. His small body, which was not even 1 meter tall, looked rather happy. "I'm sorry, but Gong Sun, am not afraid. I've never been a pretentious prick or braggart. I've always been realistic about everything. If there's one thing, then there's one. If there's two, then there's... Wow. Bang. Plop." Before Gong Sun Buju could finish his words, he was kicked to the ground by Wang Kai. Gong Sun Buju clutched his chest tightly, and his face turned green and red from the kick. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. You can show off or brag, but it depends on the situation. In front of Ben Shao, you can't show off or brag. You have to flatter Ben Shao. Do you understand? As a little brother, you should act like a little brother. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and pretended to be cold and heartless as he spoke. Cough, cough. Gong Sun Buju was furious when he heard this. He crawled up from the ground, clutched his chest, and gritted his teeth. "You are forcing me. That's right. However, after forcing you, there's also a temptation. Do you want to become an awesome person in Tianzhou? Do you want to obtain endless wealth? Do you want to have countless beauties? As long as you follow Ben Shao, these are not a problem." Wang Kai shrugged and smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully showing off. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Bragging. He was simply too good at bragging. He was bragging so much that it was hard to look straight at him. Gong Sun Buju secretly despised him. If he was really that capable, why would he need to take in a little brother? Wouldn't he just wave his hand and all the cultivators in the world would come looking for him? However, on second thought, if he was that capable, he wouldn't have taken him in as a little brother. Since he had the ability, he might as well compromise for the time being. Thinking of this, Gong Sun Buju patted the dust off his body and said indifferently, "Since you were so sincere in inviting me, I will agree." Bang. Wah. F***CK. Cough, cough, why did you kick me? Before Gong Sun Buju could finish his sentence, he was kicked to the ground by Wang Kai again. He was so angry that his face turned red, and he felt extremely wronged. He was about to nod his head and agree, but he was still kicked. This was really unfair. Kicking you is already a light punishment. Ben Shao is not inviting you. He is trying to subdue you. You need to know that a strong person like Ben Shao only needs to wave his hand, and all the strong people in the world will become his lackeys. For a weak cultivator like you to be valued by Ben Shao, you should be secretly happy. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a look of disdain, "Congratulations to the host for successfully showing off. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points." Wah! Hearing this, Gongsun Buju was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. He thought to himself that he was just trying to show off and find a way out. Who would have thought that Lin Fan would not give him any face at all? However, because of this, Gongsun Buju completely understood that he would be beaten up if he tried to show off and brag in front of Lin Fan. "Boss, I really admire your tyrannical character of only allowing the officials to set fires and forbidding the commoners from lighting lamps. From now on, my life is yours, boss." Gongsun Buju gritted his teeth and said. One could imagine the grievance in his heart. Unfortunately, he had no choice but to compromise for the greater good. Little did he know that Wang Kai knew his thoughts like the back of his hand. It would be strange if Gongsun Buju did not have any objections after being subdued in such a forceful manner. However, it was still very easy to erase that bit of opinion. After all, Gongsun Buju was just a pretentious prick who was strong in appearance but weak in reality. If that's the case, I would like to see who is so arrogant to bully a core palace disciple. We have to settle the score with the inner court disciples too. Before Wang Kai could finish his words, he was stopped by several stern voices. He turned around and saw more than 10 core and inner court disciples entering one after another. The auras of these dozen disciples also caused Wang Kai to be extremely shocked. The weakest was a 6th grade heavenly king, and the strongest were 3 9th grade heavenly kings. The burly disciple who was sent flying by Wang Kai was also present. At the same time, there were many inner court disciples and core disciples outside the B class who were watching from afar. Their cultivation was only a 5th grade heavenly king, so they naturally did not dare to offend Wang Kai. TSK, did you find a helper? Why didn't you find a good one? You actually found a bunch of trash that could be smashed into the ground with a wave of your hand. Wang Kai touched his nose and sneered with disdain. Whoosh! When these words were spoken, it immediately caused the faces of the dozen or so disciples to become furious. Their eyes were extremely gloomy as they quickly walked forward. Without any explanation, they surrounded Wang Kai and Gongsun Buju. Gongsun Buju was terrified when he saw this. He naturally knew the people who came. They were also the strongest among those who came to the outer court this time. They were all top experts from the inner court and core palace who were squeezed into the outer court. Senior brothers, you should have gone to the A class. Did you not find Wang Gai Jing? Gongsun Buju cupped his fists and smiled. Chapter 663. Bang! Plop! Suddenly, Wang Kai slapped down with his palm, causing Gongsun Buju to fall to the ground. Gongsun Buju's speed was so fast that he was stuttering. In fact, he was still clasping his fists as he smashed a hole into the ground. How can you joke around with your enemy before you? Stand up and say that again. Wang Kai shrugged and snorted with dissatisfaction. Swoosh! Everyone was shocked when they heard what Gongsun Buju said. Enemy? Many of the core disciples and inner disciples frowned as they looked at Gongsun Buju with cold gazes. They had heard that Gongsun Buju was being bullied, so they came to teach the rude outer disciples a lesson. But now they were on the same side? What was going on? They did not know that Gongsun Buju was the one who was suffering the most. Gongsun Buju's heart pounded violently when he saw the indifferent looks from the core disciples and inner disciples. He was afraid that he would have to stand against them this time. That's right. What the boss said is right. How dare this group of trash come and find trouble with the boss? They really don't know what's good for them. Gongsun Buju got up and pretended to be disdainful as he sneered. However, his heart was bleeding. Swoosh! The moment these words were spoken, It immediately caused the dozen or so disciples who had come over to frown. They looked at each other and laughed coldly in a dense manner. Gongsun Buju, you're just a bottom feeder in the core hall. Now that you're in the outer sect, your temper is much worse. A core disciple sneered. At the same time, the top disciple in the inner sect said disdainfully, Senior brother, why are you still talking nonsense with him? He's just a person who's about to die. Bastard, you're just a trash disciple in the inner sect. How dare you insult me? Die. Swoosh. Gongsun Buju moved his feet and appeared in front of the inner disciple in an instant. He flipped his palm and slammed it down on the inner disciple's head. You, senior brother, save me. The inner disciple was so scared that his face turned pale and he fell to the ground on his butt. His high spirits from before had disappeared in an instant. Instead, he was so scared that he became as limp as a shrimp. How dare you? Go back to... Bang. When the core disciple saw this, he raised his hand to stop Wang Kai. However, he was caught in midair by Wang Kai's hand. Puff crack. At the same time, Gongsun Bufei's fist landed on the inner court disciple's head, causing his head to explode. Damn it. Who asked you to act tough? Don't you know that Big Brother is protecting me now? Whether it's the inner sanctum, the core palace, or even the transcending heaven church, they'll all belong to my elder brother. Gongsun Buju spat on the ground and said happily. When he saw that core disciple was about to attack him, he was terrified. Luckily, Nyoja Tian had stopped him, otherwise he would have died. Do you think you can touch Bencheo's people as you wish? Did he bring his eyes when he went out? Can you be more discerning? Get lost. Wang Kai sneered disdainfully and slapped him. Whoosh! Pa! Rumble! In an instant, the core disciple was sent flying by Wang Kai's slap. He crashed into the wall of the courtyard and collapsed it. Such a scene also caused the hearts of the others to be greatly alarmed. All of them swallowed a mouthful of saliva as they stared blankly at Wang Kai. They could not believe that this person was so powerful. They thought that he was just an ordinary heavenly king's disciple hiding in the outer sanctum. Who would have thought that he could send a core disciple, who was at the peak of the 9th grade heavenly king, flying with a slap? With such strength, none of the people present could claim that they could do it. Senior brother, may I know your name? We failed to recognize Mount Tai and rushed into Senior Brother's Dragon King Temple. Please. Bang. Rumble. Before the core disciple could finish his words, he was sent flying out of the B class by Wang Kai's slap. The surging power of heaven was released, and the rest of the people were sent flying into the sky. There was simply no way to stop it. There was no way to resist. Boss, what level is your power of heaven? Gongsun Buju looked at the disciples who were sent flying out of the B class. His heart was beating violently. He had never thought that the boss he was following would be so ridiculously strong. He had only agreed to be a follower because he wanted to be perfunctory. But now, it seemed that it was not a shameful thing. Although it was impossible for him to dominate the entire Tianzhou, it would be easy for him to dominate the disciples of the Sky-Reaching School. Thinking of this, Gongsun Buju's mind became active. He immediately cupped his fists and said respectfully, Boss, since you have such cultivation, why don't you become a core disciple? You can fight for the position of spiritual son. The position of spiritual son. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He looked at Gongsun Buju with a puzzled expression and asked, Spiritual son, saint's son, divine son, aren't there already? Can you snatch them? Of course. It won't be long before the battle for the position of the sect leader. As long as you can successfully challenge the spiritual son, you can replace him and become a candidate for the position of the sect leader. Gongsun Wuju said respectfully. In his heart, he hoped that Wang Kai could snatch the position of spiritual son. At that time, wouldn't his position in the Sky-Reaching School rise? However, his words made Wang Kai frown. He touched his nose and smiled casually. Even if I want to snatch it, I want the position of divine son. Ben Shao doesn't care about the position of spiritual son or saint son. Well, you may not know, but the position of sect leader of the Sky-Reaching School has been reserved for Ben Shao. It's just that Bin Xiao found it troublesome and didn't want it. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Whoosh. Hearing this, the corner of Gongsun Buju's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, this boss of mine, no matter what the situation is always boasting. Cough, cough. Sect leader, it's enough to fight for the position of spiritual son. It's also the most stable. I heard that the spiritual son has just broken through to the Lord of Heaven realm. No matter how high he is now, he's only a level 2 Lord of Heaven. Gongsun Buju explained patiently. This matter was related to his future, so he couldn't be careless. If Wang Kai really went to challenge the Divine Son and failed, wouldn't he be hunted down by all the disciples of the sky-reaching school? This matter is settled. If you want to snatch, then snatch the position of Divine Son. As for the rest, Bin Xiao doesn't care. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a calm smile. Hearing this, Gongsun Buju could only smile bitterly. However, he became more and more surprised. Since he's so confident, does he really have some tricks up his sleeve? Or is he hiding his cultivation? Chapter 664. Clatter. Suddenly, the door of Sun Guantian's room opened. Such a sound immediately caused Wang Kai to raise his eyebrows and quickly turn his head to look. He had been curious about the world-devouring skill for a long time. Now that he had seen it, he wondered how effective it would be. Whoosh! When Sun Guantian's figure walked out of the room, Wang Kai was stunned by what he saw. Sun Guantian's body was surrounded by a black, baleful aura. Between his eyebrows, there was a ferocious aura. When one looked at his eyes, one would see that they were pitch black, which made him look extremely terrifying. It was as if he had been possessed by the devil. In fact, it was exactly so. F***CK. Who is this? Where did this fierce man come from? Gongsun Buju was so scared that he burst out a curse. Indeed, Sun Guantian's appearance was simply too terrifying. His aura was also extremely frightening. He had reached the level of first-grade heavenly general. Even Wang Kai was shocked by such a leap in cultivation. He had thought that his cultivation was fast enough, but this secret skill of the demon sect was totally against the natural order. Young master, Wah! Sun Guantian quickly stepped forward and was about to greet him, but he spat out blood before he could finish his words. The evil spirit around him also became more intense. Is he sent by the 36 sects of the demon sect? Gongsun Buju was startled, and he couldn't help but cry out in surprise. However, before he could finish, he was stopped by Wang Kai's gaze. As a core disciple, Gongsun Buju was naturally clear about the current situation of the sky-reaching school. Furthermore, it was common for foreign experts to sneak into the sky-reaching school. Now he saw one with his own eyes, and it was related to his boss. He even called his boss young master. Is it starting to backfire now? Wang Kai frowned slightly when he saw this. With a flick of his finger, a drop of essence blood merged into Sun Guantian's body. Buzz! Suddenly, Sun Guantian, who was surrounded by evil spirit, became like a normal person. The pitch-black color in his eyes faded away, and the evil spirit around him also disappeared. Young master, thank you for saving my life. Plop. After the feeling of backlash disappeared, Sun Guantian immediately knelt down on one knee in gratitude. This was already the second time that he had been saved by Wang Kai. Seeing this, Wang Kai shook his head slightly. With a flip of his hand, he lifted Sun Guantian up. There's no need for that. Didn't you say that you would only enter the state of backlash in the middle of every month? Why are we starting now? Wang Kai frowned and asked in confusion. Sun Guantian let out a sigh upon hearing this, before he said with a vicious expression, the force contained in their corpses is extremely powerful. If I were to devour them all at once, I would have to take the risk, so that was how it was. In the end, it was because Sun Guantian did not have the ability to withstand the power of devouring the flesh of Yuze, Immortal, and Hunluo Tian. If he wanted to devour it all at once, he would have to take the risk. It was just that the price was a little too high. If it were not for his blood essence that could save Sun Guantian's life, Sun Guantian would have died. If I were to do something so dangerous in the future, I must inform Ben Shao in advance. Come, let's get to know each other. This is your new brother, Gongsun Buju. Wang Kai shrugged as he pointed at Gongsun Buju and introduced him. Gongsun Buju? Whoosh. Upon hearing this, Sun Guantian was startled. He looked at Gongsun Buju in astonishment and gave him a thumbs up. He exclaimed, "Brother, that's a great name. I'm impressed. I'm impressed." Ugh. Gongsun Buju, who was disgusted and terrified when he heard that Sun Guantian had devoured the corpses, was instantly overwhelmed by anger when he heard the mocking words. He even forgot about devouring the corpses. He immediately waved his arm and snapped, "Bullsh asterisk T. I'm Gongsun Buju. I'm not Buju." It's the same meaning, the same meaning. Wang Kai rubbed his nose and said with a playful smile, "It's not the same meaning, boss. You can't play with me like this." Gongsun Buju immediately begged for mercy bitterly. Gongsun Buju had always been proud of his name. Unfortunately, the pronunciation of Buju and Buju were exactly the same. All right, the two of you stay here for the time being. As for the search for the so-called Wang Gai well, let's put it aside for the time being. With his ability to anger the holy lady, he shouldn't appear in the outer gate. Such an awesome person like him can only appear in the core hall. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a casual smile, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Whoosh. Hearing this, Gongsun Buju didn't think too much about it. Instead, he nodded in agreement. On the other hand, Sun Guantian's mouth twitched violently. He looked at Wang Kai in a daze. He didn't expect that Wang Kai could still brag in such a situation. Moreover, he bragged so highly. He was obviously the person that the holy lady was looking for, but he still raised his own status. However, Wang Kai didn't care at all. He shrugged his shoulders as usual and said with a faint smile, "The two of you must be careful not to provoke the person called Wang Gai well. His strength. Sigh, he's simply too powerful. With a sneeze, he can wipe out Tianzhou." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the level 7 Heavenly King realm. Young master, can you still do it? Sun Guantian sighed in his heart. He thought to himself, bragging once is enough. I didn't expect to be able to do it again so soon. Moreover, he still maintained a look as if nothing had happened. His face didn't even turn red. "Boss, why are you flattering Wang Gai well? Could it be that you know him?" Gongsun Buju also realized that something was wrong. He immediately looked at Wang Kai with anticipation. If he could find Wang Gai well and have a one-on-one discussion with the holy lady, his future would be boundless. Even if it didn't have much to do with Gongsun Buju, as Wang Kai's subordinate, his status would naturally rise. "I don't know him. I just had an encounter with him once. I vaguely remember that it was something that happened 3 million years ago. Yes, at that time, he broke the sky with one hand, and I was the one who mended it." Wang Kai shook his head and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. 3 million years ago? Once these words were spoken, Gongsun Buju's heart was immediately alarmed. He was about to open his mouth to ask, but before he could say anything, he was directly slapped by Sun Guantian, catching him off guard. "Brother, can you speak less?" Sun Guantian's face darkened, and he said speechlessly. If he continued to ask, who knew what kind of bragging Wang Kai would come up with? Moreover, the bragging every time was really unbearable. Chapter 665. Bang! Gongsun Buju was infuriated. He turned around and slapped Sun Guantian, causing him to fall to the ground. "Bullsh asterisk T. You're in charge of everything. Why are you interfering with me and my boss?" Gongsun Buju snorted unhappily. Sun Guantian was speechless. He waved his hand and said to himself, "I don't care anymore. All right, we're all brothers. Why are you fighting? If you have the time, why don't you? Outer disciples, listen up. elders, disciples, inner disciples, core disciples, and outer disciples gather at the foot of the goddess peak. Whoosh! Wang Kai and the other two were stunned by the shout. Everyone, elders and disciples, gather at the foot of the goddess peak. This, boss, are we going? Looks like the goddess can't wait any longer. She wants to call everyone to the goddess peak for a checkup, Gongsun Buju said with a frown. However, Sun Guantian couldn't take it anymore. Although Gongsun Buju didn't know Wang Kai's real identity, it didn't mean that he didn't know. Gongsun Buju, why are we going there? Didn't the young master say that? We shouldn't get involved in the Wang Gai well. Sun Guantian frowned and said in an unfriendly tone. Whoosh! Gongsun Buju was stunned when he heard that. He was just joking. However, why does it seem like he's really angry now? What's going on? Why are you in such a hurry? I'm just saying. Moreover, didn't you hear what I said just now? If you don't go, you'll be asking for trouble. What if the goddess turns her attention to us? Gongsun Buju said with dissatisfaction. Hiss! Sun Guantian took a deep breath and rolled his eyes speechlessly. He thought to himself, if we don't go now, we'll be targeted by the goddess. However, it's better than going and being found out. At least, we'll have a chance to hide. If we really go to the goddess peak and are found out, how can we run away? Young master, you can't go. I heard that the goddess has a bad temper. Now that she's angry, what if we get into trouble? Wait, where did you hear that the goddess has a bad temper? She had never left the goddess peak, all right? Furthermore, other than sister here, no one else was able to see the goddess. Gongsun Buju said with a frown. Furthermore, when he spoke of here, his expression actually contained similar feelings of love. The corners of Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he saw this scene. He could not help but pat Gongsun Buju's shoulder as he asked curiously, Brat, don't tell me that you have something going on with her? Boss, I also want to have an affair with her, but unfortunately, I don't have the chance. Gongsun Buju didn't hide anything and told him frankly. Whoosh! As soon as he said this, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. He did not expect this guy to be interested in her. Thinking of this, Wang Kai couldn't help but have the thought of playing a prank on him. He immediately nodded and said with a smile, This is simple. Let's go. Ben Shao will bring you to the goddess peak to boast. You may not know this, but the goddess has been secretly in love with Ben Shao for a long time. She just didn't agree to it. Congratulations to the host for boasting successfully. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 boasting points. Sun Guantian and Gongsun Buju exchanged glances with one another upon hearing this. They had finally reached a consensus on the matter. They completely believed that Wang Kai was boasting. Gongsun Buju even had the thought of not going to the goddess peak. If he really went to the goddess peak, wouldn't he be killed by the goddess? Would he still have a chance to live? Boss, cough, cough. This subordinate believes that it is better not to go. After all, here, and I have only met once. Actually, I don't really want to obtain her. Gongsun Buju's expression was slightly stiff as he smiled. Whoosh! However, such words made Sun Guantian roll his eyes. He thought to himself, Young master wants to go to the goddess peak for you? Obviously, he wants to boast. Okay? He even said it as if it's true. He doesn't even know how to stop Wang Kai. Young master, I think it's fine if you want to go to the goddess peak. However, you have to keep a low profile. For a strong group like ours, keeping a low profile is the way to go, Sun Guantian said with a serious face. As soon as he said this, Gongsun Buju was stunned. Why is there such a big difference between the two of them? For a moment, Gongsun Buju secretly admired Sun Guantian. Guantian's words make sense. We do have to keep a low profile. Since that's the case, let's go to the goddess peak. At that time, we just have to keep a low profile and not be too arrogant. A gentle and handsome man like Ben Shao naturally has to be fair in everything. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled casually. Congratulations to the host for boasting successfully. You received 100,000 experience and 100 boasting points. This boasting, Sun Guantian and Gongsun Buju's lips twitched, but they didn't express it. After all, it was already good enough that Wang Kai agreed to keep a low profile. If he continued to ask for it, he might go back on his word. Then let's go now. Boss, remember, you have to keep a low profile. Keeping a low profile is the most awesome way to boast. Gongsun Buju reminded Su Mo with uncertainty. Sun Guantian also lacked confidence. He secretly looked at Wang Kai's expression and said softly, Yes, that's right. Keeping a low profile is the most awesome way to boast. When Wang Kai saw this, how could he not know what they were thinking? They were just afraid that he would go overboard in boasting at the goddess peak and cause more trouble. However, their flattery made Wang Kai feel good. Thinking of this, he didn't say anything more. He just nodded slightly and went to the back of the mountain. After passing through the back of the mountain, they arrived at the goddess peak. At the same time, thousands of disciples of the sky-reaching sect had gathered at the foot of the goddess peak. Even the elders were present. Core disciples, inner disciples, spiritual ladies, spiritual sons, holy daughters, divine sons, core elders, and inner elders were all present. For a moment, it could be said that there was a great commotion everywhere. When Wang Kai and the other two arrived together with the outer disciples and elders, they were stunned by the scene. They had never thought that the goddess Xia Xinyan could be so powerful. With one sentence, no one disobeyed. Even the elders maintained a respectful attitude and gathered at the foot of the goddess peak. Moreover, the goddess Xia Xinyan hadn't shown up yet. It could be seen that Wang Kai had gotten himself into big trouble this time. I don't know where Wang Gai Jing is hiding. Sai, we lost the chance to have a one-on-one discussion with the goddess. What do you know? Can't you see that the goddess hasn't shown up yet? Furthermore, 2 of the grand elders are here, and they are the teachers of the goddess. You mean, the 2 supreme elders jointly gave the order on behalf of the goddess? Chapter 666. Above the void, at this moment, there were 2 figures standing in the air. One was an old man with his hands behind his back, and the other was an old woman with a walking stick. They were supposed to be at a kind age, but now their faces were covered with frost, and their eyes were gloomy and terrifying. They coldly glanced at the disciples and elders who came forward, revealing their killing intent. As the elders of the sky-reaching sect, they could naturally see why Goddess Xia Xinyan was angry. They would not say anything about her chastity, but they would definitely not let go of the crazy disciple who defiled Xia Xinyan. At the same time, Wang Kai, Sun Guantian, and Gongsun Buju also appeared at the foot of the goddess peak. They glanced at the 2 supreme elders, and their hearts couldn't help but jump. They couldn't see through the other party's cultivation realm. Wang Kai, who was already a 7th-level heavenly king, could see through the heavenly monarch realm experts easily. But now it was a blur. In this way, it also proved that the cultivation level of these 2 elders was definitely above the heavenly monarch realm. The only known realms now were the lower 3 heavens, heavenly soldier realm, heavenly general realm, and heavenly origin realm. The middle 3 heavens, heavenly king realm, heavenly monarch realm. Then, what about above the heavenly monarch realm? Bastard, in the current sky-reaching sect, even a mere heavenly emperor trash can sit on the position of supreme elder. Suddenly, Cat Lord's angry voice exploded in Wang Kai's mind. Such words immediately stunned Wang Kai when he heard it. Heavenly Emperor realm? Above the heavenly monarch realm was the heavenly emperor? Big stupid cat, since you're so angry, don't vent your anger on this young master. If you have the ability, just jump out and point at their noses and scold them. Wang Kai picked at his ear and said in a rather speechless manner. However, Cat Lord was silent for a moment. After a long while, he said in a low voice, "Humph. If it wasn't for the fact that I haven't found out the truth, I wouldn't just be angry. Speaking of which, you brat, don't use force later. Otherwise, your illusion will be exposed, and I won't be able to save you. Not allowed to use force." Tisk. Wang Kai immediately understood. Facing a heaven monarch realm, illusionary arts were very hard to see through. But if facing a heavenly emperor realm powerhouse above, once martial force was used, it would be exposed. This also proved that even if Cat Lord's illusionary Tao was stronger than Heavenly Emperor Realm, it was also not much stronger. What do you understand? Once I find out the truth, I will naturally think of a way to enter the real Tong Tian Tower. At that time, I will merge with my real body. In the land of Tianzhou, there are less than 10 people who can capture me. Cat sneered proudly. True body? Cat Lord was still not in his true form. His real body was hidden in the real Tower of Babel. Wang Kai was stunned when he heard that. He hadn't expected that Cat Lord's current body wasn't real. The Tong Tian Tower that he used in the past wasn't real either. You don't believe me? If it weren't for the fact that his true body had entered the 8 Desolation Lands, how could he have captured Grandpa Cat with the boundary of heaven and earth there? Grandpa Cat snorted with disdain. Hearing this, Wang Kai was immediately filled with disdain. He immediately poured cold water on Cat Lord and said, "What are you so arrogant about? What are you so arrogant about? No matter how powerful you are, aren't there still 10 people who can kill you? Do you think you can compete with this young master? In the land of Tianzhou, there is no one who can fight with Ben Shao, okay? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Bragging? Cat Lord immediately snorted in annoyance. He turned around and directly sealed his perception. He really didn't want to continue talking with Wang Kai. Every time ended in anger. Everyone quiet down. Suddenly, the old woman in the void opened her mouth and shouted sharply. Immediately, the originally noisy scene became extremely quiet. One could hear a pin drop. At this moment, everyone was looking at the 2 supreme elders. For a moment, they all felt their hearts become uneasy. The fear in their hearts was as if they were Wang Gai Jing. Elders of the various academies call out the names one by one. The disciples who are called out hand over their identity tokens for a look. The old woman said coldly, "Yes, Supreme Elder." As soon as she finished speaking, whether it was the outer elders, inner elders, or core elders, they all cupped their fists and accepted the order. Then they called out the names of the disciples they were in charge of one by one. They couldn't find out Ben Shao's identity with their cultivation, so they changed to calling out the names? This is really troublesome. The name Niu Zhetian doesn't exist in the outer gate. If I use Wang Kai's name, won't I be exposed? Wang Kai immediately frowned and felt extremely helpless in his heart. If they just called out the names and didn't hand over their identity tokens, it would be fine. He could temporarily rely on Sun Guandi, who had left, to get through this difficulty. But he had to hand over his identity token. Others didn't know that Wang Kai was Wang Gai Jing, but many outer disciples knew it clearly. After all, Goddess Xia Xinyan had described her appearance to everyone in the sky-reaching sect. Young master, when your name is called later, you don't have to say yes. When my name is called, you can say yes, Sun Guandi suddenly said through gritted teeth. Whoosh! Hearing this, Wang Kai suddenly narrowed his eyes. He turned around and looked at Sun Guandi with surprise. Then he asked, "Do you want to die for Ben Shao?" "No, I don't want to die. My life was saved by you, young master. When I'm in danger, I have to repay you. This is where the morality lies. I only ask that after I die, young master can take care of my brother Guandi." Sun Guandi asked with a solemn face. Hearing this, Wang Kai shook his head slightly. Then he shrugged his shoulders and said with a casual smile, "You underestimate Ben Shao too much. Even if he was in danger, how could Ben Shao escape with the help of his subordinates' lives? What's more, the 2 supreme elders are no match for Ben Shao. As long as he shouted, 'Kneel down,' they would be shocked into the ground." Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You've gained 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Young master, at this time, it's not bragging. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Sun Guandi wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Wang Kai with a wave of his hand. As Wang Kai said, even if he was forced to a dead end, he would not harm the people around him. That was the bottom line. Wang Kai, just as the outer court elder shouted Wang Kai's name. Before Sun Guandi could react, Wang Kai had already responded. Whoosh! Such a situation caused many outer court disciples to look at Wang Kai with bright eyes. Some of them even moved their lips, but when they saw Wang Kai's indifferent eyes, they all chose to shut their mouths. Even though they knew that Wang Kai was in disguise, no one dared to say it out loud. The outer court elders, led by Elder Zhu Yun, also had a slight flicker in their eyes when they saw this, but they did not say anything. "Hand over your identity token," Elder Zhu Yun said calmly. Wang Kai naturally did not mind this. He immediately stepped forward and handed the token to Elder Zhu Yun. If they intended to hide it, he would not have to fight with the two supreme elders of the Sky Reaching School in public. Chapter 667. Wait, Disciple Wang, stand outside and wait. There's still the second round of inspection. Just as Wang Kai handed over his identity token and was about to return, he heard the old woman in the air shout out to stop him. There's still the second round of inspection? Wang Kai's eyes narrowed, his heart filled with disdain. This was clearly the second round, and the first round of screening had failed because these two grand elders had not been able to see through the illusion technique he had cast on himself. At the same time, before Wang Kai could move and walk to the outside, the rest of the outer disciples, inner disciples, and even core disciples with the surname Wang all walked quickly with a terrified expression. They were afraid that they would be punished if they were too slow. Such a scene also made the corner of Wang Kai's mouth twitch slightly. Just like what Lord Cat said, they were just two heavenly emperor trash. It was true that when the emperor was not in the court, the eunuch was the king. Go over first. I will hide the other things for you. Elder Zhu Yun's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Wang Kai gently nodded with a smile and walked to the outside with a normal expression. Wang Kai's calm and fearless appearance caused the gazes of the two grand elders to harden. Although there was some admiration in their eyes, there was more suspicion in their eyes. Previously, when they used their cultivation to spy on all the disciples, they did not find any loopholes. This also proved that the madman who had defiled Xia Xinyan had either left the Sky Reaching School or had used some special method to hide among the disciples. In that case, they still could not find out. Wang Kai was so confident and calm. Could it be this boy? The old man frowned and whispered. On the side, the old woman gently shook her head and said in a deep voice, "I can't see through it. This should be his original appearance. However, we can't rule out the illusion and the supreme magic treasure. Yes, don't worry about him for the time being. When the second round of inspection is done, we can test him carefully." The old man nodded and said. At this time, Wang Kai was already standing among the many disciples with the surname Wang. Looking at nearly 1,000 disciples with the same surname, Wang Kai could not help but touch his nose and shake his head. He said with a sigh, "Alas, it seems that Benshio's descendants are all very hardworking. There are actually so many descendants gathered in the Sky Reaching School. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Whoosh! As soon as these words came out, many disciples with the surname Wang immediately frowned and looked at him coldly. They were originally terrified, but now they were furious. Originally, he was already feeling very uneasy at this time. However, he just so happened to meet a fellow disciple who was so good at bragging. "Kid, you can brag, but you have to choose the right time." "Humph, a mere outer disciple. Are you blind? Can't you see the Taoist robes we're wearing? Enough. Why are you talking nonsense to him? Wait until the inspection, then he. Humph. In an instant, all the disciples sneered and glanced at Wang Kai coldly. Then, they looked at the two supreme elders in the void again with worried eyes. Even if they were not the people the goddess was looking for, they felt extremely uneasy now. They were afraid that they would be implicated by the fact that they could not find Wang Gaijing. "TSK, you were quite arrogant just now. Now that you've finished bragging, you've become so panicked? What are you afraid of? Haven't you heard of the saying that a straight man is not afraid of a crooked shadow? Or is there really that Wang Gaijing among you?" Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and said with a mocking smile. Whoosh! Hearing these words, all the disciples' faces changed slightly, especially when they felt the Supreme Elder's gaze on them. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Bastard, don't talk nonsense. That's right, I think you're that one guy, Jing. I think so too. He can remain so calm in front of the respected Supreme Elder. Humph, at first glance, I can tell that he's prepared and has nothing to fear. In an instant, all the disciples pointed their spears at Wang Kai. They had no choice but to do so. You just said that the Grand Elder is a person of virtue and prestige. As for this young master, I'm not afraid of crooked shadows. Since that's the case, why should this young master be afraid like you? Alas, in the end, your courage is still not high enough. You're destined to not be strong. You should learn more from Ben Shao. Wang Kai shrugged and sneered with disdain. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. A bunch of nonsense. Extremely hateful. Extremely hateful. All the disciples were speechless. In particular, the Supreme Elder's eyes were filled with admiration for Wang Kai. This made all the disciples feel so aggrieved that they almost vomited blood. This child is quite eloquent and has outstanding courage. As for his cultivation, the old man stroked his beard and nodded with a smile. However, at the end of his words, he suddenly paused and stared at Wang Kai with a cold light in his eyes. At the side, the old woman also sensed that something was wrong. Since he was an outer sect disciple, the highest cultivation realm should only be a heavenly general. However, as a heavenly emperor, he could not see through it. Could it really be him? The old man frowned and said in a deep voice with killing intent. The old woman stared at Wang Kai and said indifferently, "Whether it's him or not, we'll have the answer later." However, one thing is certain. He must have a supreme treasure that can hide his cultivation. If it's really him, the old man sneered. Lord Cat suddenly transmitted his voice and said, "Brat, those two fools are already starting to suspect you. Pay attention and don't use force." Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard that. He casually swept a glance over the two Supreme Elders, then turned to rub his nose and transmitted his voice softly with a smile. "Big dumb cat, didn't you already seal off your perception? Lord Cat wants to see just what capabilities these two heavenly Emperor Realm dolls have to be able to sit on the position of Supreme Elder. If they can't even see through Lord Cat's illusionary art, keeping them is also losing face for the Heavenspan School." Lord Cat said with a cold snort. Heavenly Emperor Realm dolls, this posturing also got full marks. Wang Kai could not help but grin. Even if Lord Cat was once very impressive, he had not retrieved his true body now. The power of his illusionary art was also limited. Furthermore, Lord Cat's way of hiding also proved that if he made a move, he would probably be even weaker, right? Reporting to Supreme Elder, the outer sect has already completed the roll call. Inner sect, core. Following that, under the various elders' respectful reports, all the disciples passed the inspection, and the disciples, surnamed Wang, standing at the periphery became more and more. From the original close to 1,000, it already reached 3,000 now. Such a situation also made Wang Kai speechless. He could not help saying rather speechlessly, "Is the Heavenspan School opened by the Wang family?" Chapter 668. All disciples with the surname Wang. Let's start fighting here. Whoosh. Just as the disciples with the surname Wang were feeling uneasy, the Supreme Elder's cold voice suddenly sounded. "What? Fight? Let us fight each other?" This, in an instant, the disciples with the surname Wang changed their expressions. They never thought that the final outcome would be like this. Especially some of the outer sect disciples with the surname Wang. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Even if they fought each other, they couldn't fight with the inner sect disciples and core disciples. They weren't on the same level at all. As a result, those who knew Wang Kai among the outer sect disciples gritted their teeth and glared at Wang Kai with bloodshot eyes. They already had the intention to tell everyone about Wang Kai's disguise. And this scene was naturally seen by Wang Kai. He also didn't expect the Supreme Elder to make such a ruthless move. It was spicy to the extreme and exquisite to the extreme. Supreme Elder, this method can't work. Suddenly, Elder Ju Yun took a step forward and advised loudly with cupped fists. As soon as these words were said, the uneasy outer sect disciples with the surname Wang were stunned. All of them looked at the Supreme Elder with pleading expressions. If they could really change the way of fighting, they naturally wouldn't want to provoke Wang Kai. Ju Yun, do you think that you could be on equal footing with me after breaking through to the heavenly king stage? The old man in the void said coldly. At the side, the old woman frowned and coldly snorted. Obviously, she was very dissatisfied with Elder Ju Yun's sudden pleading. That's not the case. Supreme Elder, please reconsider. Now that our sky-reaching sect is lacking people, even if we have to fight, we have to separate them. We can't let the core disciples, inner sect disciples, and outer sect disciples be together. Elder Ju Yun cupped his fists and said, "Whoosh." As soon as these words were said, it immediately caused the disciples with the surname Wang to be dissatisfied. Although they didn't agree to the fight, the Supreme Elder had already made up his mind, and it would be difficult to change it. Since that was the case, why should they separate? As for those outer disciples who knew that Wang Kai was in disguise, they didn't want to fight at all. There's no need for that. You can leave now. The old man said coldly. Grand Elder, get out. Wang. Bang. Wah. Suddenly, just as Elder Ju Yun was about to plead for leniency, he was angrily rebuked by the old woman, causing him to spit out blood and fall to the ground. All right, you can start fighting, the old woman said in a deep voice. Excuse me, Grand Elder. May I know how long we're going to fight? One of the disciples could only clench his teeth and clasp his fists. At the same time, the rest of the disciples were curious too. If they continued to fight, when would it end? That would undoubtedly be a hopeless battle. They fought until Wang Gai Jing gave himself away. Quickly begin. Stop talking nonsense. The old man impatiently waved his hand and said coldly. The faces of all the disciples froze. If they couldn't find Wang Gai Jing, wouldn't everyone here die here? Grand Elder, I have something to report. Finally, some of the outer disciples with the surname Wang couldn't help but step forward and clasp their fists. At the same time, many of the disciples who were watching on the other side were also stunned. In particular, those outer disciples who knew that Wang Kai was in disguise had a cold smile on their faces. What's the matter? The two Supreme Elders were startled when they heard this. Soon after, their faces were filled with confidence as they sneered. Some things were still very useful to use some extreme means. After all, everyone had their own unique way of thinking. I know that Wang Kai, forget it. Since you admire Ben Shao so much and want to find Ben Shao and observe him, Ben Shao can only stand up and show you what is superior. Swoosh! Just as the outer disciple with the surname Wang was about to identify Wang Kai touched his nose and walked out with an indifferent expression. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. At this point, there was no way to continue hiding. Even if the outer disciple with the surname Wang did not come forward to identify Wang Kai, his identity would be exposed in a fight. Moreover, Wang Kai did not want these disciples with the surname Wang to be implicated and die because of him. There were countless ways to kill someone, but it had to be done openly and with reason. If they didn't provoke him, why should he let innocent people die for him? Although Wang Kai did not admit that he was a kind person, he was righteous. Buzz. When Wang Kai walked to the front of the disciples with the surname Wang, the illusion on his face and even his bones dissipated. Wang Kai's original appearance appeared in front of everyone. It's him. It's him. That's right. The appearance that the goddess condensed is exactly this person. Damn fellow, we almost killed each other because of him. Grand Elder, please punish this person severely. In an instant, the disciples with the surname Wang all had ashen faces and were full of murderous intent as they blamed Wang Kai. Words of mockery and coldness were incessant. Seeing this scene, Wang Kai did not feel that there was anything wrong. This matter had arisen because of him. Moreover, this was human nature. Extravagantly hoping that others would be grateful, Wang Kai would not dream of such a thing. What are you all blabbering about? Do you believe that Ben Xiao will slap all of you to death if you continue with your nonsense? Damn it, I've already given you some face. And you two old fellows, you're about to be buried in the ground. Why are you still provoking Ben Xiao? Do you want to die early? F***ck your grandpa. You're so awesome. Investigate. Investigate when you'll die? Wang Kai immediately frowned and scolded in an unfriendly tone. Under such circumstances, the entire place was so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. Even the two supreme elders were taken aback for a moment. They did not expect that someone who was about to die could still do such a thing. Wang Gai Jing. Crack. Suddenly, the void was torn open. Goddess Xia Xinyan, wearing a white dress, her long hair fluttering in the wind. Her beautiful face was full of frost as she stepped out. Oh, isn't this little Yin Yin? How is it? We just parted and you're already thinking of Ben Xiao? Hee, don't be in such a hurry. Wait until Ben Xiao beats up these two old fellows. Then he'll be intimate with you again. That way, I can repay you for chasing after Ben Xiao. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and smiled mockingly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Beat up the Grand Supreme Elder? How could he say that? Such words instantly caused all the elders and even the disciples present to be shocked. They all stared at Wang Kai and secretly wondered if he had been scared silly. Bastard! How dare a mere ant be so arrogant? Buzz! Suddenly, the two supreme elders waved their hands and slapped out in unison. Instantly, two palm prints that contained surging Tao insight descended from the sky. If I don't beat you up, you won't know how to grow. You've been acting tough for a long time. Grand summoning skill, Sun Wukong. Chapter 669. He had really defiled the goddess. Now that Wang Kai had confirmed it, everyone present was so shocked that their jaws almost dropped. They had never imagined that the goddess, who was once high and mighty, would fall to the mortal world. Moreover, she was dragged down by an insignificant outer disciple. Kid, quickly take that demon monkey away. If he destroys all the doors of the sky-reaching school, won't I become a sinner? Cat Lord anxiously transmitted his voice to Buffon. Hearing this, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but glance at Sun Wukong. He saw that Sun Wukong was enlarging the Jingu Bang and smashing the surrounding mountains. If this continued, this area would indeed be flattened. Ben Xiao, go back. I hope that Ben Xiao will summon you again next time. Next time, he will summon Chang'e too. Speaking of which, I really want to see what she looks like. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and smiled curiously. Buzz. Following Wang Kai's order, the crazy Sun Wukong's body suddenly stiffened. Then, he turned into white light spots and disappeared. Die! Whoosh! After Sun Wukong disappeared, Goddess Xia Xinyan suddenly attacked Wang Kai with a cold face. The Tao intent of the heavenly monarch realm immediately swept out in all directions. Wukong whoosh! Wang Kai opened his mouth and shouted. Xia Xinyan, who was about to attack, suddenly stiffened. Looking at Wang Kai's playful face, she was so angry that her body trembled. What kind of ability is it to rely on external strength to dominate? If you are still a man, do you dare to fight me with your own strength? Xia Xinyan gritted her teeth and shouted angrily. Even the divine lady of the sky-reaching sect was afraid of Sun Wukong's unfathomable cultivation base. They were afraid that Wang Kai would use that kind of summoning technique to summon the demon monkey back. At that time, not only would she not be able to escape, but the entire sky-reaching school would fall into eternal damnation. In less than 100 breaths, half of the Goddess Peak and the surrounding mountains had been destroyed. If this continued, the entire mountain range of the sky-reaching church would be obliterated, wouldn't it? You want to see Ben Xiao's strength? TSK, TSK. How did you even manage to say that? Previously, at the peak of the goddess peak, in the pavilion, on the bed, didn't you already see it? Could it be that he wanted to do it again? Bin Xiao doesn't mind. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a playful smile. Whoosh! After hearing this, Xia Xianyan's eyes grew even colder. She bit her red lips and stared coldly at Wang Kai for a long while. In the end, she turned around and left. He didn't say anything, nor did he express anything. However, Wang Kai knew very well that this woman hated him to the core. The only reason he didn't make a move now was because he knew that he was no match for him. If she was given the slightest chance, thinking of this, Wang Kai frowned slightly. Kill her? Of course, he wouldn't do that. What if he didn't kill her? It seems that Bin Xiao is going to use the honey trap to take her in and make her a docile and beautiful wife. Alas, Bin Xiao really doesn't want to do this. I vaguely remember that 3 million years ago, Bin Xiao used the honey trap to charm many girls. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed again and again. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the level 8 Heavenly King realm. Hearing these words, all the people who heard them secretly despised him. However, thinking of Wang Kai's terrifying means, they suppressed their disdain and turned around to leave. No one felt that the Sky Reaching School was wrong to let Wang Kai go. Even the Supreme Elder had died tragically in Wang Kai's hands. Who would be able to stop him? After all, the Supreme Elder was now the strongest in the Sky Reaching School. Even the sect leader's cultivation was not as high as the Supreme Elder's. Boy, you really surprised me. Elder Juyin shook his head and sighed. He had never thought that Wang Kai was so powerful. He could even control the demon monkey that could kill a heavenly emperor expert with a raise of his hand. As a result, Elder Juyin secretly felt a lingering fear. Previously, if he had forced Wang Kai to hand over the Heavenly Way technique, he was afraid that his fate would have been the same as that of the 2 Supreme Elders. Haha, Elder Juyin, what are you talking about? Bin Xiao's strength has always been very awesome. The demon monkey, just now, was just a defeated opponent of Bin Xiao. Wang Kai waved his hand and pretended to be indifferent. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Defeated opponent? Then why didn't he dare to accept Xia Xinyan's challenge? Elder Zhu Yun's mouth twitched. He shook his head and sighed secretly. Then he said with a complicated expression, now that you've killed 2 Supreme Elders, the Sky Reaching School's position in the 6th region will fall again. The ranking of the entire Tianzhou will naturally fall again and again. It was already at the bottom of the 2,500. It wouldn't make much of a difference if it fell further. Wang Kai shrugged indifferently. Looking at the direction where Goddess Xia Xinyan left, he couldn't help but squint his eyes and smile. Elder Juyin, Bin Xiao still has some things to do. I won't boast with you here. Oh, by the way, you take care of my subordinates. Whoosh! As soon as his voice fell, Wang Kai nodded at Sun Guantian and Gongsun Buju in the distance. Then he stepped into the air and went straight in the direction where Xia Xinyan left. Now, the most important thing was to completely take down the goddess. As for the ranking of the Sky Reaching School, what did it have to do with Wang Kai? You two cough cough. Aren't you going to persuade him to shoulder the burden of the Sky Reaching School? Elder Juyin said in a low voice. Now, Wang Kai's strength was terrifying. Sun Guantian and Gongsun Buju were afraid of him. Although they were only disciples, now that they were working together with Wang Kai, their status was naturally not ordinary. Not to mention that the outer sect elders had to be respectful to them. Even the inner sect elders and core elders dared not provoke them. Even the supreme elders could not escape death. Who would have the guts to provoke Wang Kai? Wouldn't that be seeking their own death? Let's see what the young master wants. I can't persuade him. Sun Guantian smacked his lips. For a moment, he felt a little smug. Originally, the outer sect disciples had to bow to the elders. But now, it was the other way around. Gongsun Buju did not feel much. After all, as a core disciple, his status was not lower than that of an outer sect elder. That's right, Let's see what the boss wants. Gong Sun Buju said indifferently. Looking at Sun Guantian's proud face, his heart was itching. He was thinking whether he should go back to the core palace and show off. Chapter 670. Spirit Maiden Peak. When Wang Kai arrived in pursuit of Xia Xinyan, regardless of whether it was Divine Son Su Ju or Spiritual Son Mo Kong, they were all gathered together. Right now, Xia Xinyan's face was ashen as she sat on a chair with a murderous look in her eyes. Beside her, the spirit maiden Guan Qingqing was comforting her with red eyes. Elder sister, don't be angry. That Wang Kai is a big bastard. Even the Supreme Elder is not his match now. We should not provoke him anymore. Guan Qingqing gently advised. I feel that what the Spirit Maiden said is very reasonable. The current Sky Reaching School is not on the same level as before. Now that a cultivator like Wang Kai has appeared, it's better to seek safety. Divine Son Su Ju suddenly sneered. Swish! Hearing this, the few people in the room all coldly glared at him. Divine Son Su Ju, the Spirit Maiden Peak does not welcome you. Please leave quickly. Guan Qingqing angrily reprimanded. Mo Kong Lingzi was also in favor of this. With an equally ugly expression, he said in a deep voice, Please, Su Ju, the enmity of the servants will be avenged in the battle for the position of Sect Master. Scram! Xia Xinyan's face was also extremely cold as she angrily reprimanded him. None of the people present had a good impression of Divine Son Su Ju, especially Mo Kong and Guan Qingqing. Many of the servants on their respective peaks had been killed by Su Ju. Now that they met, it was already the greatest tolerance for them not to fight. Why are you guys like this? That Wang Kai is not a disciple of the Sky Reaching School, and he does not have any sense of belonging to the Sky Reaching School. Now that the Sky Reaching School is in a dangerous place, if we can rope him in, with the cultivation of the demon monkey that killed the Supreme Elder, our Sky Reaching School. At the end of his words, Divine Son Su Ju paused, his face full of ridicule. As soon as these words were spoken, Guan Qingqing and Mo Kong were startled. As for the divine daughter Xia Xinyan, she also frowned. Her eyes were filled with complicated hesitation. I feel that the Divine Son's method is wonderful. Swish! The Alcade Saint appeared in the room. The halo behind his head flickered, and he nodded with a gentle smile. Indeed, it's feasible. With this, our Sky-Reaching Church will be able to resolve the danger of being bullied by numerous experts. Another voice sounded. It was Saintess Yunxi. Her eyes were filled with sorrow as she floated into the room. Sister Yunxi, why are you here? Guan Qingqing was astonished. Holy Maiden Yunxi had never stepped out of the Holy Maiden Peak, but today she had taken the initiative to come here. Upon hearing this, Yunxi gently shook her head. Her eyes indifferently looked towards Xia Xinyan as she softly said, Little Sister Xinyan, you should become Tao companions with Wang Kai. Otherwise, what can you do? Whoosh. Hearing these words, the eyes of the few people in the room all focused. Even Guan Qingqing felt that this method was not bad. Sister Yunxi's words make sense. Sister Xinyan, no matter how angry you are, you can't do anything to that evil man. Guan Qingqing said with red eyes. Although Guan Qingqing agreed with this method, from the perspective of sister, she naturally knew that Xia Xinyan felt wronged and was not worth it. However, from the perspective of the Sky-Reaching Church, this was the best way. If you want to rope in Wang Kai, you can do it yourselves. Yunxi, Qingqing, you too can do it yourselves. Xia Xinyan coldly snorted. She then slammed the table and stood up, leaving directly. Bang! As Xia Xinyan pushed the door open, the first thing she saw was Wang Kai's hateful face. You? Xia Xinyan immediately clenched her teeth. Her killing intent was clear. What about you? Bin Xiao came here specifically for you. Do you know how many beautiful girls in Tianzhou want Bin Xiao to marry them? Unfortunately, Bin Xiao doesn't like any of them. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Whoosh! Hearing these words, Xia Xinyan's eyes narrowed. She coldly snorted in disgust. She turned her body sideways and directly stepped into the air. In the room, Guan Qingqing and the others were also dumbfounded. They had never imagined that Wang Kai would use such a method to pick up girls. Isn't this too hateful? It would be strange if he could successfully pick up girls like this. What are you looking at? Remember, Bin Xiao won't be controlled by anyone. You have your own thoughts. Bin Xiao doesn't want to care, but if you touch Bin Xiao's bottom line, none of you will live. Do you understand? Damn it. You're hindering Bin Xiao from picking up girls. Whoosh! After Wang Kai finished speaking, his face darkened. He hurriedly stepped into the air and chased after Xia Xinyan. Kid, the thing that Lord Cat asked you to do hasn't been completed yet. You're still trying to pick up girls. Lord Cat said angrily. Wang Kai's eyebrows twitched. He smiled casually and said, What do you know? As long as I can take down the goddess, I'll know everything. Moreover, with Bin Xiao's power, I can find the sect leader at any time and force him to tell me. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Lord Cat secretly despised him. If it wasn't for the help of the demon monkey, even Ling Zi would have a hard time defeating him, let alone the sect leader. What Lord Cat wants is not to force the sect leader to tell me the truth. Lord Cat said in a low voice. Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. He couldn't help but touch his nose. He laughed and said, Are you suspecting that there's a spy in the sect of Tong Tian? Even the sect leader can't be trusted. So many years have passed. The strongest person in the sect of Tong Tian today is only at the Heavenly Emperor realm. No one can estimate how much people's hearts have changed. Lord Cat sneered disdainfully. Don't follow me anymore. Suddenly, Xia Xinyan, who was in front of him, turned around. Her eyes were cold as she shouted angrily. She was already at the Lord of Heaven realm, but she couldn't get rid of Wang Kai. She didn't know that although Wang Kai was only at the level 8 Heavenly King realm, with his level 4 power of heaven, he was almost at the Lord of Heaven realm. Now, he could follow Xia Xinyan closely, but he couldn't surpass her or even stand shoulder to shoulder with her. Why don't you let Bin Xiao follow you? We're such a loving couple. Aren't we a match made in heaven? Wang Kai squinted his eyes and said with a scorching smile, Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Swoosh! Hearing this, Xia Xinyan was disgusted. She pursed her lips and glanced coldly at Wang Kai. Then, she turned around and left. Hey, don't go. Come with this young master to enjoy the beautiful scenery of flowers and flowers. Wang Kai hurriedly caught up from behind and waved his hand repeatedly. Chapter 671. Inside the Heavenly Palace. At this moment, there were dozens of experts sitting opposite each other. On the left were the elders and grand elders of the Heavenly Palace. On the other hand, the 20 or so experts on the right all wore white robes with crescent moons. They all had cold faces as they looked at the middle-aged man on the left of the seat of honor with disdain. The middle-aged man looked to be in his 40s, but everyone present knew that his real age must be in the thousands. After all, this was the current sect leader of the Heavenly Palace, Gu Yuntong. He had cultivated for more than 4,000 years and had reached the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm. Beside Gu Yuntong sat a middle-aged man. His figure was extremely burly, and his strong hands were holding a teacup. While drinking tea, the beard on his square face was still trembling. It looked a little intimidating. Such an elegant thing like drinking tea was really not suitable for him. It looked too out of place. This person was the mountain master of the Cloud Sea Mountain, Lu Fei Bai, who was ranked 2,479th among the forces in Tianzhou. This time, he came to the Heavenly Palace to collect some benefits. It could be said that every month, the mountain master of the Cloud Sea Mountain and the elders would come here. Sect leader Gu, recently, there have been too many new disciples in the Cloud Sea Mountain. In a short period of time, We can't replenish the resources, so we specially came to your sect to borrow some resources needed for cultivation. Sect Leader Gu, please don't worry. When the cloud, sea mountain calms down, we will return it double. Lu Fei Bai narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, it immediately caused the numerous elders of the cloud, sea mountain, to grin coldly. The elders of the heavenly palace were so angry that their bodies trembled nonstop. They were all glaring and gritting their teeth, which made the people of the cloud, sea mountain, look down on them even more. Mountain Master Lu, forgive me for not agreeing to this. Guyan Tong frowned and said in a deep voice, Not agreeing? Lu Fei Bai's eyes narrowed when he heard this. Suddenly, he crushed the teacup in his hand and said indifferently, Sect Leader Gu, what did you say just now? I didn't hear it clearly. Can you say it again? Buzz. Whoosh. Suddenly, the elders and supreme elders of Yun Haishan all stood up when they heard the sound of the teacup shattering. Terrifying Tao intent was released. The expressions of the numerous elders of the sky reaching school instantly turned livid to the extreme. All of them were being invaded and suppressed by the Tao inside, and all of them gritted their teeth and clenched their fists tightly while wearing gloomy expressions, yet they didn't say a single word. No matter how much Yun Haishan's people humiliated him, even if he had the ability to resist, he had no intention of doing so. It was because the sky-reaching church was not as strong as Yun Haishan. Mountain Chieftain Lu, please don't be angry. Let me tell you the truth first. Seeing this, Gu Yintong's expression was also extremely sorrowful. His heart was extremely angry, but there was no other way. He could only wave his hand and explain in a good tone. Whoosh! Hearing this, Lu Fei Bai nodded in satisfaction. He glanced indifferently at the elders of the cloud sea mountain, causing them to disperse their Tao wills with cold smiles and return to their seats. Sect Master Gu, if you have something to say, just say it. Although I, Lu Fei Bai, have a scholarly name, I have always liked to be straightforward. I don't like to beat around the bush, Lu Fei Bai said with a faint smile. That's right. My father is the overlord of the western land of the 6th region. Since the sky-reaching school has just arrived in the 6th region, if you want to seek protection, you have to curry favor with Yun Haishan. A white-robed young man was sitting on the seat of honor below. His eyes were filled with disdain as he spoke sarcastically. The meaning behind his words was extremely obvious. To put it bluntly, he just wanted to pay a protection fee. As for the loan that he had mentioned earlier, it was just a perfunctory remark. This should be Brother Fei Bai's eldest son, Lu Jinhai, right? Not bad, not bad. You are indeed a talent. Gu Yun Tong suppressed the anger in his heart and praised him with a pleasant expression. However, the young man, Lu Jinhai, didn't appreciate his kindness at all. He snorted rudely and said, Sect Master Gu, let's cut the pleasantries. Quickly hand over this month's resources so that I won't have to wait here and talk nonsense with you. Whoosh! As soon as the words came out, Gu Yuntong immediately frowned. The killing intent in his heart was extremely strong. Every time Yun Haishan came, he would become more serious. In the past, he would still be polite. But now, even a junior dared to bully him so bluntly. He then looked at those elders and great elders of the transcending heaven immortal cult who were sitting below. Their eyes were extremely gloomy, sullen, ashamed, and resentful. Since Brother Fei Bai is so straightforward, I will be frank with you. Now, the resources that the Sky-Reaching School has are almost negligible. Even if we take them out, Brother Fei Bai will not be interested in them. Guyan Tong said lightly. It was as if he had thrown caution to the wind. In fact, that was indeed the case. The resources that the Sky-Reaching School possessed had been used up long ago. Now, they could only protect themselves. There were a lot of gold, silver, and jewels, but would Yun Haishan want them? What he wanted was cultivation resources, wasn't it? Originally, the people of the Sky-Reaching School wanted to fight to the death. However, they saw that Lu Fei Bai was not angry. Instead, he smiled. Oh, so that's how it is. Since Sect Head Gu is in trouble, I, Yunhai Mountain, will naturally have to help you. How about this? Let your sex goddess marry my son Jianhai. What do you think? Lu Feibai coldly smiled. Below, Lu Jianhai's face was filled with excitement. Today, it could be said that he didn't come here just to ask for resources, but more for goddess Xia Xinyan. Presumptuous. How dare a lowly force like you come to the sky-reaching school and behave atrociously? If you don't get out of the sky-reaching school's mountain gate, don't blame the sky-reaching school for perishing together with you. Suddenly, before Gu Yuntong could speak, a delicate voice angrily rebuked him from outside the hall. In a flash, under everyone's puzzled gaze, goddess Xia Xinyan floated in from outside. Xinyan, what are you doing here? Why don't you go back quickly? Gu Yuntong stood up immediately, his face full of worry. Many elders of the sky-piercing immortal sect were also frowning. They kept signaling Xia Xinyan to leave quickly. The goddess was one of the pillars of the sky-reaching school's future. She was also the hope for the sky-reaching school to regain its glory. If it was destroyed by Yuan Haishan, wouldn't the sky-reaching school be doomed to be mediocre, waiting to be destroyed at any time? Little Yin, why are you running? You made Bin Xiao chase you so hard. Come and let Bin Xiao kiss you. Whoosh! Suddenly, another voice came into the hall. When Wang Kai floated in and landed beside Xia Xinyan, everyone was stunned. The sect master of the sky-reaching school, the elders, and Yun Haishan's people were all stunned. Little Yin, let Bin Xiao kiss her? Who is this guy? Chapter 672. Bastard, where did you come from? How dare you call Goddess Xia that way? Do you want to die? Bang! Suddenly, Lu Jianhai slammed the table and stood up. His face was livid and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He had been in love with Xia Xinyan for a long time. Now he finally had a chance to do something good with her. However, a troublemaker came out of nowhere. Are you talking to Ben Xiao? Wang Kai squinted his eyes and looked at the young man playfully. He had not expected that there would be an idiot in the sky-reaching school who dared to provoke him. How dare you? Look at your clothes. You're just an outer disciple of the sky-reaching school. How dare you enter the sky-reaching hall and disrespect Goddess Xia? You don't even kneel down to greet me. Kneel down now. Lu Jianhai said coldly. Whoosh. Lu Jianhai looked at Xia Xinyan complacently. However, he saw a blur in front of him. When he came to his senses, he was sent flying as if he had been hit hard. Bang! Crack! Wang Kai's punch smashed Lu Jianhai's face. Lu Jianhai's body hit the pillar of the hall hard. Blood kept coming out of his mouth. Umph! You're just a level 1 heavenly king. How dare you act tough in front of Ben Xiao? How dare you talk about Ben Xiao's clothes? TSK, TSK. Those who know will think that you're wearing a white robe. Those who don't know will think that you're holding a funeral. Wang Kai shrugged and sneered disdainfully. Whoosh! Such a scene shocked everyone present. Even the mountain master of Mount Yunhai had just regained his senses. He looked coldly at Wang Kai, then at Gu Yuntong, and said in a deep voice, Sect Leader Gu, are you planning to start a war with my Mount Yunhai? Mount Yunhai? Not from the sky-reaching school? No wonder their clothes are different. Wang Kai touched his nose speechlessly. At first, he thought that they were the divine sons and spiritual sons of the sky-reaching school. It turned out that they were not a family of the sky-reaching church. Tut, tut, brother who is as sturdy as an idiot, please use your brain before you speak. Obviously, you don't have the guts to fight a life-and-death battle against the sky-reaching church. Do you still want to threaten us? You scum. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and sneered disdainfully. Whoosh! Hearing this, Lu Feibai's expression immediately sunk. His gaze focused on Wang Kai as killing intent was revealed. However, he did not directly attack. Instead, his tone became a little heavier as he said indifferently, Sect Leader Gu, have you thought it through? All right, Brother Fei Bai, the sky-reaching church doesn't have any resources to give to Yun Haishan. If you want to marry Xinyan, you have to ask her. So you can leave now. Gu Yuntong frowned and shouted. His tone was filled with disdain and no room for doubt. When Gu Yuntong spoke with his back straight, Lu Fei Bai's expression froze. In the past, and even just now, Gu Yintong did not dare to be presumptuous. Now, it was just a goddess and an unknown brat. How could he be so bold? Since sect leader Gu has made up your mind, Yin Haishan will visit your sect tomorrow. Goodbye. Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Fei Bai flipped his hand and rolled up the unconscious Lu Jianhai. Then, he turned around and was about to leave with the numerous elders who did not conceal their killing intent. Wait, you came to show off in front of Ben Shao. Are you going to leave after you're done? Have you asked Ben Shao? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes as he raised his hand and placed it in front of Lu Fei Bai's chest. Whoosh. This action caused Lu Fei Bai to fly into a rage. He immediately flipped his hand and slapped toward Wang Kai. Bang! Whoosh! Whoosh! However, before Wang Kai could react, Gu Yuntong, who was behind him, suddenly flashed and quickly attacked. His palm collided with Lu Fei Bai's, and both of them retreated a few steps. Gu Yuntong, do you really want to die? Lu Fei Bai immediately bared his teeth and angrily rebuked. Brother Fei Bai, I advise you to give this little brother an explanation as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Cloud Sea Mountain will cease to exist before your army reaches the border of the Transcending Heaven School. Gu Yintong said with a faint smile. He was naturally aware of Wang Kai's actions at the foot of Goddess Peak. He was originally thinking of how to rope in Wang Kai. However, he did not expect that Wang Kai would actually come himself. Moreover, he had formed a grudge with Lu Fei Bai, the mountain master of Yun Haishan. Such a situation caused Gu Yuntong to secretly rejoice. If Wang Kai could summon the demon monkey and cause the entire Yun Haishan to be annihilated, the sky-reaching sex crisis would definitely be resolved. Explanation? TSK. You actually want me to give an explanation to a brat? Is he worthy? Are you worthy? Your sky-reaching sect is worthy. Slap. Suddenly, before Lu Fei Bai could finish his words, he was suddenly slapped, causing his face to turn red. For a moment, he was stunned on the spot. Do you think Ben Shao is worthy or not? F*CKU. Slap. After Wang Kai finished speaking, while Lu Fei Bai was still in a daze, Wang Kai immediately threw out another slap. Instantly, Lu Fei Bai's body swayed from the slap. Bastard. Today, the sky-reaching sect will be annihilated. I will skin you alive and pull out your tendons. Ninth Elder, listen to me. Instantly, Lu Fei Bai's expression became furious. He wanted to directly attack Wang Kai, but he saw that Gu Yintong was still standing behind Wang Kai. In his anger, he could only shout loudly, Mountain Master, please! Swoosh! An elder took a step forward, and, just like the other elders, all of them had an extremely livid expression. Quickly return to Yun Haishan and gather all the experts above Heavenly Yuan stage. Today we must destroy the sky-reaching sect. Lu Fei Bai shouted sternly. Yes, Mountain Master. Swoosh. As soon as he finished his words, the ninth elder turned around and was about to leave. Elders of the sky-reaching sect, listen to me. Kill all those who come from Yun Haishan. Yes. Swoosh. At the same time, before the ninth elder could leave the sky-reaching sect hall, the door was tightly shut by many elders of the sky-reaching sect. Swoosh! As several candlesticks lit up, the two sides in the hall looked at each other with eyes full of killing intent. Is there something wrong with your heads? In the sky-reaching sect, you shouted that you want to destroy the sky-reaching sect. You don't have enough people, and you still want to go back and ask for reinforcements. Are you an idiot? You must be an idiot, right? You must be an idiot, right? Wang Kai was dumbfounded as he touched his nose and said. For a moment, Wang Kai was speechless. He did not know that Lu Fei Bai dared to do so, because the sky-reaching sect had always been cowardly. If the sky-reaching sect had not hesitated to destroy itself and started a war with Yun Haishan from the beginning, they would not have been bullied now. Gu Yintong, don't forget that Yun Haishan is not the only one who doesn't like the sky-reaching sect. Humph, if we make any mistakes, think about it. Will the other forces allow the sky-reaching sect to continue existing? Lu Fei Bai sneered coldly. Chapter 673. Lu Fei Bai, I will deal with the other forces. Yin Haishan will be the first. Guyan Tong said calmly. Whoosh. As soon as these words came out, Lu Fei Bai's eyes narrowed. He glanced at the elders of the transcending heaven sect from the corner of his eyes and sneered. Are you bluffing? With your current strength, do you think you can eliminate the other forces? The strongest were only sect master Guyan Tong and the three supreme elders. They were all at the peak of the Sky Emperor realm. Although Yun Haishan's strength was similar to that of the Sky-reaching sect, if they fought, the Sky-reaching sect would definitely lose. Because Yun Haishan had many experts, the difference in numbers was difficult to make up for with the current situation of the Sky-reaching sect. Haha, Mountain Lord Lu, you don't have to worry about this. Let's do it. Guyan Tong smiled faintly. Suddenly, his face became fierce. He flipped his palm and attacked Lu Fei Bai first. Buzz, rumble, rumble. In an instant, a great battle was about to break out. Yin Haishan and the elders of the Sky-reaching sect were also fighting with each other. For a moment, the hall was shaking endlessly. At this moment, Wang Kai and Xia Xinyan stood to the side. They did not attack, nor did anyone attack. They were relaxed. Little Yin Yin, should we help them? Wang Kai shrugged and smiled casually. Whoosh! Xia Xinyan twisted her eyebrows and said coldly, If you have the ability, you can go and try. Humph. Don't you see that they are fighting with each other? No one cares about us at all. You mean we are being looked down upon? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but touch his nose, secretly amused. No wonder no one attacked him and Xia Xinyan. It was because they did not put him in their eyes at all. In fact, it was exactly so. For the experts of Yin Haishan, it was better to deal with the elders of the Sky-reaching sect first than to attack Wang Kai. As long as he destroyed them, wouldn't he be able to deal with Wang Kai in any way he wanted? He was just an ant. Why was there a need to be so anxious? The weakest experts from the Yunhai Mountain are at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm. There are more than a dozen heavenly emperors, 3 peak heavenly emperors, and the mountain lord, Lu Fei Bai. They are evenly matched with the sky-penetrating church. If you can help, you'd better hurry. Otherwise, both sides will suffer heavy losses. Xia Xinyan said in a deep voice. Both sides would suffer heavy losses. Wang Kai had already expected this to happen when both sides were evenly matched. However, he was very curious. Why would Xia Xinyan choose him to intervene? You didn't really marry Yin Haishan, did you? Wang Kai frowned and said with an unkind expression. Whoosh. Hearing this, Xia Xinyan immediately reacted. She clenched her silver teeth and coldly said, Even though Yun Haishan suffered a great loss, there are still 2 supreme elders who haven't come yet. And the other 2 supreme elders of my Sky-reaching school have already been. Wang Kai's mouth twitched. He understood Xia Xinyan's meaning. Yun Haishan could bear the loss, but the Sky-reaching school could not. If you want Ben Shao to intervene, you can, but at least you have to agree to Ben Shao's conditions. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a playful smile. He would never do something that would cause him to suffer losses. They had nothing to do with the Sky-reaching church. They were neither relatives nor friends. So why would they help? What conditions? Xia Xinyan's eyes flashed with anger. She was very angry with Wang Kai for taking advantage of the situation. Yes, just a few conditions. Wang Kai said with a faint smile. A few conditions? Xia Xinyan frowned and asked impatiently. However, these 2 questions caused Wang Kai's face to darken. He was extremely speechless as he said, Yes, there are a few conditions. Do you agree or not? Bastard, I'm asking you, how many conditions do you have? Xia Xinyan reprimanded him with her forehead full of black lines. F***CK. Wang Kai suddenly understood. He thought that Xia Xinyan would not agree. She had said a few conditions, which meant that she wanted to refuse. But now, she actually agreed and asked him a few conditions. 10,000. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and raised a finger. 10,000. Whoosh. Xia Xinyan's teeth chattered. She clenched her fists and scolded coldly. 10,000? Why don't you die? Haha, look, those idiots are still alive. Ben Shao is such an indomitable, hot-blooded man. How could he choose to die? Wang Kai curled his lips and laughed disdainfully. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. I can only agree to one of your conditions. Xia Xinyan said in a low voice. There was nothing she could do when she met a scoundrel like Wang Kai, who asked the sky-reaching church to be so weak. Bastard, a mere ant dares to insult us? Seventh Elder, bring Goddess Xia to the side. Whoosh! Lu Feibai shouted angrily and wanted to attack Wang Kai. But with Gu Yuntong's interference and Xia Xinyan beside Wang Kai, he could not do anything. Hearing Wang Kai's insults, Lu Feibai could no longer hold back. Whoosh! As his voice faded, an elder stepped forward. After pushing back his opponent with all his might, he dashed toward Xia Xinyan and raised his hand in an attempt to grab her. You're so arrogant. Ben Shao did not care about you, but you're so enthusiastic. Great summoning skill. Bajie. Wang Kai's face instantly darkened as he yelled. Congratulations to the host for successfully using the summoning skill. A total of 2,000 bragging points have been consumed. Buzz. Crack. Suddenly, the void was torn apart, and as white mist drifted out, a figure carrying a nine-toothed rake instantly appeared. Whoosh! This situation caused everyone who was fighting in the hall to stop what they were doing. All of them stared blankly at the figure carrying the rake. Fat head, big ears, big belly, pig face, human body. Pig demon? Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Bullshit! I am Marshal Tian Peng. You mortals actually dare to call this Marshal Tian Peng a pig demon. Eat this marshal's rake. Whoosh! In an instant, Zhu Beiji roared as he raised his nine-toothed rake and swept it through the air. Buzz! Rumble! Rumble! Wah! Regardless of whether it was the leader of the transcending heaven immortal cult, or the elders, or the boar and the other elders of the Cloud Sea Mountain, all of them were swept away by this blow. Their bodies were fiercely knocked against the wall, and they vomited blood continuously. Damn! As expected of Marshal Tian Peng, he has the demeanor of king. His first attack shocked everyone. I'm impressed. Wang Kai was shocked and gave a thumbs up, praising again and again. Chapter 674. This Gu Yuntong, the sect master of the sky-reaching sect, and the other elders could only grit their teeth and endure it even though they were unwilling and anxious. They could only watch Zhu Beiji take the people of the Cloud Sea Mountain out of the sky-reaching sect. Such a great opportunity to destroy Yin Haishan had been wasted just like that. This made the people of the sky-reaching sect, who had been bullied, feel somewhat uncomfortable. However, they could do nothing about it. Ben Shao has defeated the strong enemy. You should be happy. Why do you look so gloomy? Could it be that Ben Shao, who is so rich and powerful, owes you money? Wang Kai suddenly frowned and said with a playful smile, Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You've gained 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Whoosh! When these words were spoken, everyone was speechless to the extreme. He clearly knew what was going on, yet he just had to play dumb. It was truly infuriating. However, Gu Yuntong and the others couldn't do anything to Wang Kai. Since he didn't want to help the sky-reaching sect, it was impossible to force him. Xia Xinyan was also quite helpless at this moment. She thought that she could lead Wang Kai to the sky-reaching hall and let Gu Yuntong find a way to deal with him. But now, if she provoked him, wouldn't she be looking for trouble? Even all the invaders of the Cloud Sea Mountain were easily defeated by him. The sky-reaching sect couldn't deal with Wang Kai, right? Little brother Wang, I wonder if you're willing to inherit the position of the sect master of the sky-reaching sect? Whoosh! Suddenly, Gu Yuntong's shocking words caused everyone's expressions to change. Sect master, this, many elders frowned. Of course, they knew the purpose of Gu Yuntong's action. However, it was indeed a bit rash to give the position of sect master to an unfamiliar young man so casually. Moreover, Wong Kai didn't have a sense of belonging to the sky-reaching sect at all. However, they felt helpless after thinking about it. If he had a sense of belonging, why would he give up the position of sect master? Now, for the safety of the sky-reaching sect, this was the only way. Do you want to give up the position of sect master to Ben Xiao? In order to let Ben Xiao help the sky-reaching sect solve the current problem, right? Am I right? Wong Kai suddenly narrowed his eyes and said with a playful smile. He thought that the sect master of the sky-reaching sect was quite a schemer. He didn't hesitate to give up the position of sect in order to let me use the grand summoning skill to help the sect. Sect master of the sect. Sect master of the sky-reaching sect is sect. Sect master. Guyan Tong's face was solemn as he spoke. After he finished speaking, he frowned and looked at the other elders. Sex. Sex for sex. S. Sect. Sex and sect. Papa. Wong Kai immediately clapped his hands and sneered with admiration. Not bad, not bad. Unity is an impregnable fortress. Unfortunately, do you think Ben Xiao is an idiot? Aren't you afraid of telling? Kid, hurry up and agree. We can use this opportunity to find out the cause of the current situation of the sky-reaching church. Moreover, once you become the sect leader, won't the goddess Saintess and Spirit Maiden all be yours? Just as Wong Kai was halfway through his sentence, the cat master's anxious voice suddenly echoed in Wong Kai's mind. The corner of Wong Kai's mouth twitched. He thought, this big stupid cat is going all out for the sky-reaching church. It doesn't even hesitate to let me take the goddess, Saintess, and spiritual lady. If he really took the 3 future pillars of the sky-reaching church, it would definitely become the biggest news in Tianzhou, right? Thinking of this, Wong Kai also felt that it was feasible. Beauty, fame, and benefits, all 3. It was not a big deal to help the sky-reaching church and teach the offending forces a lesson. Just as Wong Kai was about to agree, he saw that Guyan Tong and the others all had ugly expressions. Although Wong Kai did not finish his sentence, everyone knew that Wong Kai was not going to agree. Why are you all frowning again? Wong Kai suddenly twisted his eyebrows and asked with a speechless expression. No wonder the sky-reaching church had been oppressed until now. Even their own people had lost their confidence. It would be strange if they were not bullied. Little brother Wong, now that the sky-reaching church is in danger, I hope you can help. For this, I am willing to pay any price. Guyan Tong said sadly, shaking his head. Seeing this, Wong Kai was stunned. Looking at Guyan Tong's serious and unpretentious appearance, he was quite curious. According to the cat master, a heavenly emperor like him was not qualified to become the sect leader. He thought that Guyan Tong became the sect leader because he was the strongest person in the sky-reaching church. But now, it seemed that this was not the case. Well, this guy is not bad. His surname is Gu. He should be the descendant of the guardian elder. The cat master said with satisfaction. The guardian elder's lineage? Descendant? Could it be that the guardian elder's lineage was all destroyed? Wong Kai couldn't help but rub his nose. Turning around, he placed his hands behind his back and said indifferently, since you've made such a request, this young master naturally can't heartlessly refuse. Alas, who asked this young master to be so soft-hearted? Who asked Ben Xiao not to see the sky-reaching church destroyed? Kindness is a sin. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 9th level Heavenly King realm. Host, Wong Kai occupation, Heavenly Martial Artist realm. 9th level Heavenly King Dao technique. Path to Heaven Divine ability. Luck deprivation technique. Great summoning technique equipment. Ever-changing fan heavenly power. Level 4 astral origin points. 0 physique. Invulnerable guardian beasts. None bragging points. 16800 experience. 0900000. Hearing the notification, Wong Kai squinted his eyes and glanced at it. Seeing that his experience points had increased by another 100,000, he suddenly felt extremely annoyed. He impatiently urged his mind to close the notification so that he wouldn't be irritated by it. At this rate, he did not know how much experience points he would need to break through to the next level, such as the Lord of Heaven, the Emperor of Heaven, and above. Wouldn't he vomit blood just by bragging that he could get 100,000 experience points each time? Are you serious? Whoosh! Hearing Gu Yintong shout, Wang Kai's heart skipped a beat. His voice was too loud and too sudden. However, after seeing his excited expression, Wang Kai gave up the idea of teaching him a lesson. He nodded gently and said with a smile, "Of course it's true. There are not many good people like Ben Xiao who keep their promises. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points." Plop! In an instant, after getting Wang Kai's nod, Gu Yuntong directly led the elders and knelt on one knee on the ground. "Please wait for a day, sect leader. We will prepare for the ascension ceremony. Tomorrow, we will welcome you at the heavenly platform." Chapter 675. Enthronement Ceremony? Why do they have to make it so grand? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. He turned around and looked at Gu Yintong and the others. He nodded and said with a smile, "You guys know how to do things. It's settled then. Well, before tomorrow, Ben Xiao wants little Yin Yin to accompany him. Oh, call Saint Yunxi too." Swish! Hearing this, Gu Yintong and the others frowned slightly. Xia Xinyan had been defiled by Wang Kai. Letting her be with Wang Kai was a good way to tie Wang Kai down. However, Wang Kai actually wanted Saint Yunxi to accompany him. For a moment, Gu Yintong was a little embarrassed. TSK, you just shouted that you would obey me. Now, Ben Xiao just made a small request, and you're backing down? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and sneered disdainfully. "I don't care if you help the sky-reaching church or not. I will never agree to your unreasonable request." Swish! Before Gu Yintong could speak, Xia Xinyan couldn't stand it anymore. She turned around and stepped into the air. Wang Kai didn't mind this. He didn't chase after her. Instead, he looked at Gu Yintong and the others with ridicule. Gu Yintong and the others thought that Wang Kai would definitely chase after her. However, when they saw that Wang Kai didn't even have the intention to move, they felt very miserable. "Young sect master, the marriage between you and Xinyan should be the priority. As for Yunxi, I think we should put it aside for the time being," Gu Yintong said with a frown. "Sect. Ahem, Elder Gu is right. If the goddess and you become cultivation companions, and you have a saintess, it will cause internal strife in the sky-reaching church." That's right. There are many disciples in the sky-reaching church who love the goddess. Saint Yunxi also has many pursuers. If, as the elders and Gu Yintong tried to persuade him, Wang Kai frowned. He waved his hand and interrupted, "That's a problem for you to deal with. Ben Xiao doesn't matter. As long as you give the order, let them accompany Ben Xiao." "Well, I'm going to force Ben Xiao to do it." Everyone's faces stiffened when they heard this. They did not expect Wang Kai to have such an idea. If they were the ones to give the order, the majority of the disciples would resent them. As for Wang Kai, as long as he said he was forced, wouldn't everything be settled? You can't do that, hierarch. If you do that, the transcending heaven cult will be thrown into chaos. Gu Yintong said anxiously. The elders were speechless. They did not expect that Wang Kai would make such a request. It was already a loss for the sky-reaching church to get the goddess Xia Xinyan. They did not know what kind of chaos it would cause. But now, he wanted to get the Saintess Yunxi at the same time. If the sky-reaching church did not need Wang Kai's help now, they would definitely fall out with him. If you keep talking nonsense, there is no need for other forces to destroy the sky-reaching church. Ben Xiao will destroy you first. Wang Kai frowned and pretended to be impatient. They wanted to use him to deal with the enemies of the sky-reaching church. In that case, how could he let it go without giving them some benefits? Hierarch. Many elders wanted to persuade him, but they were interrupted by Gu Yuntong before they could finish their words. Well, since the hierarch has made up his mind, we must obey. Elder Lu Hua, I'll leave this matter to you, Gu Yuntong said seriously. Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. They didn't expect that Gu Yuntong would actually agree to Wang Kai's request. But on second thought, given the current situation of the sky-reaching church, this was the only way. The great elder named Lu Hua nodded slightly and said with a solemn face, Yes, Elder Gu and Hierarch. Whoosh! Elder Lu Hua was about to turn around and leave when Wang Kai called out to him just as he was about to take a step. Wait, when you go to deal with the Saintess Yunxi, remember to bring the goddess Xia Xinyan here. Well, I'll be waiting in the sky-reaching hall. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a playful smile. With the great elder in the heavenly emperor realm taking care of things, why would he need to chase after Xia Xinyan? Yes, Hierarch. Elder Lu Hua gritted his teeth, cupped his fists, and left. In the face of Wang Kai's rude request, no one in the sky-reaching church was qualified to stop him. After all, he was the current hierarch of the sky-reaching church. Even if he was not, they did not have the ability to stop him. Well, you guys, go and get a big bed and put it in the center of the hall. Oh, by the way, get some incense burners, leather whips, candles, and so on. Wang Kai touched his nose and said with a casual smile, Big bed, put it in the sky-reaching hall. Incense burners? Leather whips? Candles? Such words caused the crowd to be extremely puzzled. All of them suspiciously looked at Wang Kai, secretly guessing what exactly he wanted to do. Hierarch, the sky-reaching hall, is an important place in the sky-reaching church. Cough, cough, I think we should go to the sky-reaching peak to find a loft. Gu Yuntong braced himself and said. However, Wang Kai did not care about this. With his hands behind his back, he went straight to the head of the hall and sat down. He said with a faint smile, Since Ben Xiao is now the hierarch of the sky-reaching church, we should listen to Ben Xiao's arrangement. Do you know that even the 9 heavens palaces are crying and begging to give the position of hierarch to Ben Xiao? Unfortunately, Ben Xiao really disdains it. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. He really knows how to brag. Hearing this, everyone's mouth twitched. Seeing that Wang Kai was so determined, they could only look at each other and give up the idea of continuing to persuade him. They were afraid that if they angered Wang Kai, not only would they not protect the sky-reaching church, but also attack the sky-reaching church. That would not be worth a loss. Yes, Hierarch, please wait for an hour. We will go down the mountain to find the things we need. Whoosh! Under Gu Yuntong's lead, all the elders left in unison. Whether it was the big bed, the candle, or the whip, it was really difficult to find them in the sky-reaching church. Boy, aren't you afraid that the sky-reaching church will turn hostile if you continue to make trouble like this? Suddenly, the shadow of Cat Master appeared. He was stroking his long whiskers and squinting his eyes. Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. Of course, he knew what Cat Master meant. In fact, he had guessed from the beginning that Gu Yuntong did not have good intentions in letting him take the position of hierarch of the sky-reaching church. Even if he did it for the safety of the sky-reaching church, he had really schemed against the wrong person. There's no need to worry about this matter. But you, since there's no powerhouse above the heavenly emperor in the transcending heaven immortal cult, why are you still hiding? Wang Kai's brows slightly raised as he asked with a curious expression. Hearing this, Cat Master stroked his long whiskers and gently shook his head. He said, Sometimes you don't choose to hide because there is a strong enemy. Boy, you are still too inexperienced. Chapter 676. TSK Tisk, Stupid Cat. Can you stop acting tough in front of Ben Xiao? Don't you know that Ben Xiao is the creator of acting tough and the one who guides the flow of bragging? Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Just as the cat had said, he did not choose to hide when there was a strong enemy around. In Wang Kai's opinion, he was just acting tough. If he did not show up now, wasn't it because he was afraid of some unknown strong enemy? What do you know? Sometimes, when you keep a low profile, you'll gain more pleasure. Just like what I am doing now, I can observe anything that can't be seen in the open. The cat stroked his long whiskers and squinted his eyes. He looked indescribably proud. It could be seen that the cat had been deceived and framed in the past. Otherwise, he would not be hiding so carefully now. However, the way he talked about keeping a low profile piqued Wang Kai's interest. Bin Xiao is too strong now. He is so strong that even the heavens and the earth are trembling. It seems that it is time to keep a low profile. Wang Kai nodded his head gently and sighed. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Hearing this, the cat took a deep breath and gritted his teeth. He stared at Wang Kai angrily, then turned into a strand of hair and disappeared behind Wang Kai's head. He could not bear it any longer. Bang! Patter! Sect leader, the bed is ready. Sect leader, the candles and whips are also ready. After a while, under the leadership of Gu Yuntong, many elders carried a white jade bed that could accommodate more than 10 people into the main hall. Following closely behind, a few elders brought in more than 10 black whips and dozens of candles. They were placed neatly around the stone bed, which made it seem like a real thing. Not bad, not bad. Now we just have to wait for Elder Lu Shui to come back. Wang Kai nodded gently and praised. He couldn't help but feel excited. With these tools, he could toy with Xia Xinyan and the sorrowful Saintess Yunxi. Who knew what kind of scene would appear? Cough, cough. It's Elder Lu Hua, not Lu Shui. The corners of Gu Yuntong's mouth twitched slightly as he helplessly corrected him. When the other elders heard this, they held back their laughter. To be able to call Elder Liu Hua as Elder Lu Shui, Wang Kai was truly a weirdo. However, Wang Kai didn't care about this at all. Or rather, it could be said that he didn't even hear it. At that moment, he was already thinking about how to teach Xia Xinyan and Yunxi a lesson. Sect leader, Goddess Xia Xinyan and Saintess Yunxi have arrived. Just as Wang Kai was deep in thought, Elder Lu Hua's voice sounded from outside the great hall. Was it finally here? Swoosh! Wang Kai immediately came back to his senses. His eyes flashed as he looked at the door of the hall. Soon, Elder Lu Hua, Xia Xinyan, and Yunxi stepped into the hall. However, Xia Xinyan and Yunxi's expressions were extremely cold. As soon as they entered, they glared at Wang Kai as if they wanted to skin him alive. However, they were unable to move, nor could they speak. They had been forcefully suppressed by Elder Lu Hua. Yes, don't disperse the suppression Dao will for now. All of you can leave. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled casually. Now that they had arrived, Wang Kai could no longer suppress his restless heart. Yes, sect leader. Gu Yuntong, Elder Lu Hua, and the others looked at each other. In the end, they could only nod helplessly and leave together. Rumble. In the end, as the door of the great hall gradually closed, the candles in the hall were lit by Wang Kai. Saintess Yunxi, you asked Bin Xiao to think about it before. Now, Bin Xiao doesn't need to think about it. He can capture you without a fight. Do you admit defeat? Wang Kai squinted his eyes and walked in front of Saintess Yunxi. He lifted her chin with his finger and asked with a smile. Swoosh! Saintess Yunxi's eyes grew colder. She wanted to resist, but she couldn't move. She wanted to shout angrily, but she couldn't say anything. She could only stare coldly at Wang Kai. She looked as if she wanted to swallow Wang Kai alive. Beside her, Goddess Xia Xinyan's face was ghastly pale. Having tasted that feeling, she naturally knew what she was about to face. Her delicate body, which was suppressed, trembled slightly. Swoosh! Bang! Bang! Suddenly, under the panicked gazes of Xia Xinyan and Yunxi, their bodies were lifted up by Wang Kai, one in each hand, and thrown onto the giant stone bed. Crack! Sizzle! Immediately, Wang Kai waved the leather whip in one hand and cracked it. In the other hand, The candles dripping with oil made a slight noise. Seeing this, Xia Xinyan and Yun, she became even more panicked. They didn't know what Wang Kai wanted to do. Tell me, who's first? Wang Kai shrugged and said with a playful smile. Swoosh. Upon hearing this, Yun Shi and Xia Xinyan hurriedly looked at each other. Under such unknown means, how could there be any sisterly affection left? Kid, don't go too far. If you force them to release the divine sense of the Tao bones in their bodies, you can think about the consequences yourself. Just as Wang Kai was about to teach them a lesson together, Lord Cat's voice rang in his mind. Tao bones divine sense? The protection method left by the sect leader of the Sky Reaching School? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and curled his lips in disdain. He said with a faint smile, it's just the divine sense of the heavenly emperor realm. Big stupid cat, you'd better seal off your senses quickly so that you don't see a bloody storm. Kid, the divine sense that Lord Cat is talking about is not left by Guyantong. It was left by the sect leader of the Sky Reaching School when it was still the second most powerful force in Tianzhou. His strength is several levels above the heavenly emperor realm. Lord Cat said in a serious tone. Swoosh. Several levels above the heavenly emperor realm? What kind of cultivation is that? Wang Kai was stunned. He held the leather whip in his hand and the candles in his hand. For a moment, his face darkened. What was the most painful thing in the world? It was nothing more than being unable to touch a beautiful woman in front of you. However, it was also because of this that Wang Kai broke out in a cold sweat. He transmitted his voice with lingering fear. Then before this Major General Xia Xinyan, Lord Cat, is not sure why this goddess did not release her divine sense. But Saintess Yunshi will most likely fight to the death. Lord Cat snorted. Could it be because of the system suppression? With the system suppression, even if she wanted to release her divine sense, it would be impossible. Thinking of this, Wang Kai could not help but squint slightly. He stared at Xia Xinyan and Yunshi, who seemed to be ready to fight to the death. For a moment, he hesitated. Chapter 677. Bang, bang, bang. Little brother, Ben Yuan, cough, cough, I'm back. I've done my job well. Open the door and send Ben Yuan. I'm back. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door of the hall, followed by Zhu Beiji's hearty laughter. Hearing this, Wang Kai narrowed his eyes. The summoning function was indeed different now that it had been upgraded. In the past, whenever the summoned person completed the task, they would automatically disappear. But now, regardless of whether it was Sun Wukong or Zhu Beiji, he had to personally send them back to their original world. Since that was the case, could he make them stay here forever? Why don't I summon Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Xiao Wujing, and the White Dragon Horse? When the time comes, Bin Xiao will be their master. Wouldn't that be great? Let Tang Sanzang go to the west to retrieve the scriptures himself. Ha ha ha. Whoosh. Thinking of this, Wang Kai's face immediately lit up with joy. He immediately waved his hand and opened the door to the palace. Looking at Zhu Beiji, who was carrying a nine-toothed rake, Wang Kai's eyes were filled with ridicule. Little brother, why are you looking at me like that? Fairy? Hee. In an instant, Zhu Beiji's gaze turned and fixed on Xia Xinyan and Yun Shi, who were on the big stone bed. His eyes immediately lit up. Fairy. Hearing this, Wang Kai's mouth twitched. It seemed that Zhu Beiji was used to calling beautiful women fairy in his world. Whenever he saw beautiful women, he would call them fairy. May I know how old you are? When have you been married? Zhu Beiji's next words immediately caused Wang Kai to frown. Black lines appeared on his forehead. Whoosh. Looking at Xia Xinyan and Yun Shi, they were already extremely disgusted. Suddenly, they had a feeling that if it wasn't for this pig demon, they would rather let Wang Kai take advantage of them. Warning, don't be rude. They are your master's wives. Wang Kai's face turned serious, and he pretended to be mysterious as he said, Ma's wives. Whoosh. Hearing this, Zhu Beiji was startled. He quickly looked around and shouted, Master? Master, you're here too? Hee hee. You're not honest either. You actually hid it from us and secretly looked for the fairy. Bang! Suddenly, Wang Kai raised his leg and kicked Zhu Beiji, causing him to tumble on the ground. Tang Sanzang didn't come. The master that Bin Xiao mentioned is right in front of us. With Bin Xiao's great talent, teaching you how to pick up girls should be a piece of cake. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. So far away, Zhu Beiji was a little stunned. He smacked his lips and looked at Wang Kai. You are my master, he asked in a silly voice. You want to teach me how to pick up girls? Of course, what do you think? You don't want to? TSK, TSK. If you don't want to, then Bin Xiao will send you back. Eating vegetarian and praying to Buddha every day is not bad. Wang Kai rubbed his nose and smiled mockingly. Whoosh! Hearing this, Zhu Beiji's face darkened. His eyes flashed with pain. If not for the fact that he was suppressed and couldn't escape from Guanin's palm, why would he become a monk? What about Fairy Chong? Old pig, still want to see her. Zhu Beiji said hesitantly. Fairy Chong-yi. He was beaten into a pig, but he was still thinking about Chong-yi. Chong-yi had a lover, okay? Wang Kai was speechless. The corner of his mouth twitched. He didn't know what to do with Zhu Beiji. Zhu Beiji was beaten down because he hooked up with Chong-yi, but he was still thinking about her. This is simple. Bin Xiao will summon Sun Wukong, Xiao Wujing, White Dragon Horse, Chong-yi, Queen Mother, and so on. When the time comes, Bin Xiao won't have to say anything, right? Wang Kai smiled. Whoosh! Zhu Beiji's eyes lit up when he heard this. He rubbed his hands together and chuckled. Since that is the case, it is not a problem for me to become your disciple. However, when will I fulfill my promise? Zhu Beiji didn't have to go to the Western Paradise, and he didn't have to be a monk. He could drink wine, eat meat, and flirt with beauties. With Zhu Beiji's personality, it would be strange if he didn't agree to such a carefree life. Since I have promised you, I will fulfill my promise when the time comes. However, I will have to wait for Tianji to arrive. Wang Kai said with his hands behind his back. Zhu Beiji was doubtful when he saw this, especially when Wang Kai was pretending to be mysterious. He was still swinging the whip in his hand. How could he believe him? It wasn't convincing at all. However, there was nothing he could do. Zhu Beiji had already suffered once. He didn't dare to go against Wang Kai again. All right, then old Zhu, will stay behind. Oh, that's right. Master, if you really do summon the horse protector, old Zhu, will be the big senior brother. He will be the second senior brother. Zhu Beiji rolled his eyes and said with anticipation. Whoosh! Hearing this, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. Zhu Beiji even used the term horse protector. It was obvious how dissatisfied Zhu Beiji was with Sun Wukong. Let him be the second senior brother. You'll be the big senior brother. Wang Kai nodded and smiled. As for the so-called Queen Mother, Chang'e, Wang Kai only mentioned it casually. Whether or not he could summon her would depend on the timing. Also, it would be best to summon all the fairies from Womanland. The last time I was there, I didn't get any benefits. However, that demon likes Master. Sigh. Zhu Beiji shook his head and sighed. Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he saw how Zhu Beiji's ears were swinging. He even wanted all the fairies in Womanland. This Zhu Beiji's ambition and lust were really big. I will think about this. Wang Kai nodded and said. Since he kept Zhu Beiji, he couldn't always use force to make him work, right? Giving him some benefits was better than anything else. Thank you, Master. All right, there's still that white-bone spirit. Asterisk, that white-bone spirit has already been beaten to death by the horse protector. Let's get Fairy Zixia, he. Zhu Beiji chuckled. The desire in his eyes was self-evident. However, at this moment, black lines had already appeared on Wang Kai's forehead. He truly did not expect Zhu Beiji to be so lecherous and greedy. If he kept Zhu Beiji here, all the beauties in Tianzhou wouldn't have a good ending. If that was the case, how would he be able to pick up girls? Wouldn't Zhu Beiji be the one to take advantage of him? Thinking of this, Wang Kai suddenly frowned and said with an unfriendly expression, Wu Neng, Master is warning you. If you dare to have any thoughts about the girls that I value, I will skewer you and barbecue you. Chapter 678. Haha, spiritual maiden Guan Qingqing. Since you've come, why don't you stay and play? Wang Kai smiled as he turned around. The whip and candle were still in his hands. Swish! Guan Qingqing, who had just stepped into the hall, was startled when she heard this. She looked at the large stone bed, as well as the whip and candle placed around it. For a moment, she was extremely confused. However, looking at Wang Kai's strange and hateful appearance, she could guess that he was up to no good. Humph, I'm only here to scold you. As for you wanting me to stay, that's impossible. Guan Qingqing sneered and immediately turned around to leave. She had originally thought that Wang Kai only called for Xia Xinyan and Yun Shi, but not her. This was Wang Kai's disdain for her. She believed that spiritual maidens were inferior to goddesses and saintesses. However, now that Guan Qingqing had taken the initiative to visit, she did not see Xia Xinyan and Yun Shi. She only saw the ill-intentioned Wang Kai holding a candle and a whip. There was even a large bed in the hall. How could the clever Guan Qingqing really stay? Swish! Rumble! However, before Guan Qingqing could walk out of the hall, the door was firmly shut by Wang Kai with a wave of his hand. What do you want? This situation immediately caused Guan Qingqing's delicate body to stiffen. She slowly turned around and looked at Wang Kai, who was approaching her with a leather whip and a candle. For a moment, she could not help but dryly swallow a mouthful of saliva as her little heart thumped rapidly. What else can I do? Of course I want to play with you. Ha, since you've taken the initiative to come to me, if Bin Xiao doesn't do anything to you, wouldn't it be a waste of your courage? Wang Kai frowned as he said with a playful smile. Ha! As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Kai waved his hand and swung the whip. Immediately, it slammed against the door beside Guan Qingqing, emitting an ear-piercing sound. Plop! Guan Qingqing, who was caught off guard, was so scared that she fell to the ground. She hugged her chest and said with a trembling voice, You can't do this to me. I am a spiritual lady. So what if she's a spiritual lady? Just now, Bin Xiao had dealt with the divine lady and the saintess. Besides, Bin Xiao is now the hierarch of the sky-reaching church. You probably don't know that, right? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and said with a smile. Whoosh! Hearing this, Guan Qingqing's delicate body trembled in fright. She pursed her lips tightly and waved her jade-like hand, using all her strength to slap the door. Bang! Wong! Rumble! However, his palm strike landed on empty air. The originally closed entrance to the palace hall was actually directly opened. As a result, Guan Qingqing fell forward and rolled down the stairs. Get out of here. Bin Xiao doesn't have time to play with you. Wang Kai waved his hand impatiently. He was just trying to scare Guan Qingqing and had no intention of doing anything to her. Bastard! Guan Qingqing will not let you off. Just you wait. Guan Qingqing's pretty face was filled with shame and anger. Looking at her cut palm, her eyes turned red. Wang Kai did not care about this at all. Looking at Guan Qingqing, who was running away with her tail between her legs, he could not help but rub his nose and smile faintly. Now, the most important thing is to find Xia Xinyan and Yunxi. It's not Bin Xiao's character to let go of the ducks that are already in his hands. Whoosh! As soon as his voice fell, Wang Kai stepped into the air. His eyes narrowed slightly as he used his divine sense to spy on the entire sky-reaching church. At the same time, in front of the mountain gate of the sky-reaching church, Zhu Beiji was leading Gu Yuntong and other elders. They were looking at the Cloud Sea Mountain, the Flying Sword Sect, and the Tyrant Blade Sect, who had come to attack the mountain. Sect Master Yuan, please be careful. This demonic pig's cultivation is very high. We are no match for him. Lu Fei Bai, the mountain master of the Cloud Sea Mountain, said in a deep voice. Previously, he had been severely injured by Zhu Beiji and was mercilessly thrown out of the sky-reaching church. If it were not for the elixirs, he would have died in the sky-reaching mountain. This time, he had brought the Flying Sword sect and the Tyrant Blade sect here to make the final bet, to destroy the sky-reaching church in one fell swoop. After receiving benefits from Liu Feibai, the Flying Sword sect and the Tyrant Blade sect would naturally be happy to destroy the sky-reaching church and obtain the cultivation resources of the sky-reaching church. 2,400 place, Flying Sword sect. 2,401 place, Tyrant's Blade School. What benefits did Liu Feibai give you? You actually did not hesitate to come to my sky-reaching church to make trouble? Gu Yintong took a step forward and shouted in a rather unfriendly tone. Whoosh! Hearing this, Liu Feibai's face twitched. The benefits this time were more than half of the cultivation resources of the Cloud Sea Mountain. If they could not destroy the sky-reaching church, the Cloud Sea Mountain would be in a state of decline within 10 years, even if no one attacked. If Liu Feibai had not been severely humiliated, how could he have made such a decision? One should know that there were many forces eyeing the sky-reaching church covetously, but none of them could destroy the sky-reaching church. Not for any other reason, but because the other forces wanted to obtain benefits from the sky-reaching church. If the sky-reaching church was destroyed, how would the other forces distribute the resources? However, the Flying Sword sect and the Tyrant Blade sect were different. They were the overlords of the 6th region. All forces had to obey their orders. However, if one wanted to invite them, there would be many benefits. Cut the crap, Gu Yintong. When the sky-reaching church first came to the 6th region, the Tyrant Blade sect guaranteed that your sect could take root in the 6th region because of Guzhan. But now, your sect dares to attack the Cloud Sea Mountain without permission. Aren't you a little too arrogant? Whoosh! A middle-aged man in a purple robe stepped out from the Tyrant Blade sect side. His eyebrows were as sharp as knives, and his face was extremely handsome. Although he was middle-aged, he was as handsome as a youth. This man was the sect leader of the Tyrant Blade sect, Li Bideo. At the same time, the leader of the Flying Sword sect nodded and said with a smile, Sect leader Li is right. Now that Brother Guzhan has gone missing, the sky-reaching church should close their doors and settle down. How dare you attack the Cloud Sea Mountain of the 6th region? You're digging your own grave. You won. Li Bideo, don't be so arrogant. Back then, you were afraid of my father's cultivation, so you took the initiative to please him and let the sky-reaching church take root in the 6th region. Now that my father is not in the sky-reaching church, you dare to cause trouble here? Aren't you afraid that my father will destroy the Flying Sword sect and the Tyrant Blade sect when he comes back? Gu Yintong scolded sternly. Whoosh! Hearing this, Li Bideo and Yu Huan raised their eyebrows and immediately waved their hands to give the order to destroy the sky-reaching church. However, before they could say anything, Zhu Beiji stepped forward with a 9-toothed rake on his shoulder and snorted impatiently. You guys are too good at talking nonsense. If you want to fight, just do it. Men, back off. Women, stay. Your grandpa Zhu wants to release the energy that he has accumulated over the years. Ahem, mental pressure. Chapter 679. Be asterisk starred. You're just a pig demon. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Do you want to be eaten alive? The sect leader of the Flying Sword faction scolded Zhu Beiji. He waved his hand and shot out waves of Dao towards Zhu Beiji. Seeing this, Zhu Beiji's eyes widened in anger. His expression turned furious. He flipped the 9-toothed rake over and threw it out. Buzz, rumble, bang, wah. In an instant, the waves of Dao were scattered by the 9-toothed rake. Even the sect leader of the Flying Sword faction was sent flying into the sky while vomiting blood. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. No one knew where he had flown to. Humph, you just a weakling. How dare you challenge Grandpa Zhu? Did you not eat today? Did you faint from hunger? Zhu Beiji snorted in disdain. Whoosh! Such a scene immediately shocked everyone. All of them widened their eyes and opened their mouths wide as they looked at Zhu Beiji in disbelief. They could not believe that a pig demon could send the sect leader of the Flying Sword faction flying with a single blow. Even now, no one knew exactly where Yuan had flown to. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Men, leave now. Women, stay here. Grandpa Zhu wants to spar with all of you. Zhu Beiji laughed arrogantly. This, what the F asterisk CK? Why aren't you running? Whoosh. In an instant, all the male disciples ran away in a frenzy. Most of the women turned pale and wanted to run away. However, they realized that they could not move at all. There were also some female disciples who did not want to run away. Instead, they threw flirtatious glances at Zhu Beiji. For some women, no matter how high Zhu Beiji's cultivation was, they would not be able to tolerate his looks. However, there were some women who did not care about their looks. They only cared about Zhu Beiji's cultivation. However, no matter what kind of women they were, Zhu Beiji would accept them all. It could be said that he had his eyes on all the female disciples from the beginning. Don't go, you too. Grandpa Zhu hates cunning people like you the most. Stay here and serve Grandpa Zhu's pea. Wang. In an instant, with a flip of Zhu Beiji's hand, the tyrant Blade and the mountain master of the Cloud Sea Mountain, who had already fled, were captured. There was no resistance at all. At this moment, the mountain lord of Mount Cloud Sea, Lu Feibai, finally understood the truth. This pig demon was simply too terrifying. Even the leader of a force ranked 2,400 was no match for him. Who could be a match for him in an area of a few 100,000 kilometers? Grandpa Pig, please spare my life. I've come here to help the Transcending Heaven Church become the overlord of this region within the radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. Lu Feibai, the lord of the Cloud Sea Mountain, cried out loudly. Whoosh! Hearing this, Zhu Beiji was filled with disdain. He raised his hand and gave Zhu Beiji a vicious slap. Then, he sneered, you should talk to them about this matter. Your grandpa Zhu has no time to deal with you. After he finished speaking, Zhu Beiji flipped his hand and swept all of the female disciples from the three major powers into his sleeve. There were a total of 3,000 of them. Elder Zhu, wait. What about the leader of the Flying Sword sect? Guyan Tong's mouth twitched as he braced himself and asked. The other elders of the Transcending Heaven Church were also speechless. Even if he liked beauties, he shouldn't have gathered so many of them at once, right? There were more than 3,000 of them. Could he even take it? Not many people can survive after being hit by Grandpa Zhu's rake. Zhu Beiji snorted disdainfully as he stepped into the air and disappeared in a hurry. Hearing this, Guyan Tong and the others couldn't help but look at each other and secretly let out a sigh of relief. Take the two of them away. Tomorrow, when a young sect master ascends to the throne, we'll sacrifice them to the heavens. Guyan Tong said indifferently. Yes, Gu sect. Elder Gu. Elder Lu cupped his fists together and took Lu Feibai and Li Bideo, who were ashen-faced, back to the Transcending Heaven Church. Guyan Tong and the others still couldn't react to the fact that they had defeated their enemies so easily. It was the truth, but they still couldn't accept it. It was as if they were in an illusion. We're still too weak. They're too strong. Guyan Tong shook his head and sighed. Elder Gu, I think now is the best time to dominate the area. The Flying Sword sect, Yin Haishan, and Domineering Saber sect can be defeated one by one. That's right. Without their leaders, the overlords are no threat at all. Swoosh! Many elders narrowed their eyes and suggested one after another with cold glints in their eyes. In their opinion, the death of the leaders of the three forces was undoubtedly an opportunity to destroy the three forces. We can't do that. Let's listen to the young sect master. Guyan Tong was a little moved, but after thinking for a while, he waved his hand helplessly and refused. Even if the three forces were destroyed, so what? The overall strength of the Transcending Heaven Church still couldn't be changed. Moreover, there were still many forces within the area of hundreds of thousands of miles. They weren't afraid of the Transcending Heaven Church. Even if the tiger was driven away, the wolf would still be there. Everything depended on Wang Kai. After all, only he had the ability to dominate the area of hundreds of thousands of miles. Hearing this, the elders came to their senses and couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. No matter what, they needed a strong helper to complete the task of Overlord. The declining transcending body sect had no chance at all. At the same time, Wang Kai, who had arrived at the Holy Maiden Peak, stood in the air and looked down at the peak below. He couldn't help but touch his nose and laugh. These two little girls dare to escape without Benshio's permission. It seems that their butts are itching for a fight. Boy, if no one helps them, their only way to escape is to rely on the Taoist Bone's divine thought. Although the Taoist Bone's divine thought can only be used once, it can last for 2 hours. Lord Cat reminded him in a serious tone. He was afraid that Wang Kai would get into trouble and be killed by the Taoist Bone's divine thought. Hearing this, Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and shrugged his shoulders. He put his hands behind his back and said with a smile, "It's only 2 hours. Ben Xiao has plenty of time to wait. This world belongs to Ben Xiao. When it takes beautiful things, it's up to Ben Xiao to decide." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Master, the strong enemies have been defeated. 2 of the leaders of the 3 forces have been captured. The other one was killed by Zhu Beiji with his rake. Swoosh! Zhu Beiji, who was rushing over from afar, reported in a hurry and was about to turn around and leave. Seeing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. He couldn't help but wave his hand and ask curiously, "Wait a minute. Why are you in such a hurry? Could it be that you have done something wrong?" Master, are you going to snatch it from Zhu Beiji?" Zhu Beiji's body stiffened. He turned around and looked at Wang Kai bitterly. Chapter 680. Snatch. Could it be that Zhu Beiji had gotten his hands on something good? Something that Zhu Beiji, who had such a high cultivation, was interested in must be something good. Even though Wang Kai was not interested in it, he was curious to know what it was. Thinking of this, Wang Kai clasped his hands behind his back and pretended to be enigmatic as he said, "Wuning, any good thing must be given to the master first. After the master has finished using it, the disciple will use it. Although the master has countless treasures, sometimes it is still very disappointing." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 1 Heavenly Lord. Congratulations to host for successfully breaking through. Heavenly Force has reached the 5th level. Host, Wang Kai profession, Heavenly Martial Artist rank. Rank 1 Heavenly Lord Dao technique. Heavenly Dao mystique. Luck deprivation skill, great summoning skill equipment. Ever-changing fan heavenly power. Rank 5 astral origin points. 0 physique. Invulnerable guardian beast. None bragging points. 15800 experience. 090000 when he heard the notification. Wang Kai's eyes slightly narrowed. He casually glanced at Zhu Beiji, who was currently hesitating. Then he activated his mind and closed the window. After all that talk, you still want to snatch it. Zhu Beiji's heart was filled with disdain. His face twitched as he said, "Master, let's split it 50-50. That's fair and square, is that okay? Half each. What the F asterisk CK? Could it be that Zhu Beiji had a lot of treasures that he wanted?" Wang Kai's interest was piqued. However, his expression remained calm. He shook his head and smiled. "Wuneng, as the saying goes, a teacher for a day is a father for life. The most respected thing in the world is the love of a father and a mother. Your master is so kind, yet you only give me half? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points." Swoosh! Hearing this, Zhu Beiji was so angry that he almost fainted. He did not expect Wang Kai to be so shameless. He had just become Zhu Beiji's disciple, and he did not even give him a greeting gift. Instead, He was asking for benefits from his disciple. However, Zhu Beiji still didn't know what was going on with Wang Kai and the others. Since he couldn't win or escape, he could only compromise. All right, I'll give them to you. I'll give it all to you. I hope you can take it, Master. Wang. All of a sudden, Zhu Beiji waved his sleeves and streaks of light shot out. Under Wang Kai's curious gaze, he saw that the flowing lights had all turned into beautiful women. Your so-called treasures are them? Wang Kai was speechless. His face turned green. He did not expect Zhu Beiji to do what he said. He really captured all the female disciples of the invading forces. That's right, Master. Don't tell me you think it's too little. I don't have a secret stash here. It's all here, Zhu Beiji said unhappily. Initially, he thought that he could be happy. However, before he could be happy, he was crying in his heart. Yum my ass. Get the hell out of here. The corner of Wang Kai's mouth suddenly twitched, and his expression was full of anger as he snapped. He thought it was some treasure. In the end, it turned out to be thousands of women. Even if he liked beauties, he didn't want thousands of them. You've already taken all the benefits, and you still want me to get lost, Zhu Beiji muttered unhappily. Wait, take them all away. Wang Kai frowned when he saw this, especially those women. Most of them were throwing flirtatious glances at him, which made him feel extremely disgusted. Perhaps only someone like Zhu Beiji would be able to accept such a lowly woman. Swoosh. However, Zhu Beiji was stunned by Zhu Beiji's words. He turned around happily and rubbed his hands. He said in disbelief, Master, are you saying that you want me to take them all away? You don't want any of them? Zhu Beiji thought that he wouldn't be able to get any of them. However, he was so surprised that he almost lost his mind. Zhu Beiji couldn't control himself when he saw the looks of those beauties. He couldn't wait to take them all away. Wang Kai was speechless when he saw this scene. He never expected Zhu Beiji to be like this. Immediately, he impatiently waved his hand and said, Quickly take them away. Don't leave a single one behind. All right. Zhu Beiji clapped his hands and replied loudly. He waved his sleeves and kept all the women in his sleeves. Lad, this demon pig is so lecherous. Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble in the future if you keep him by your side? The 6th region is chaotic. As long as you are powerful enough, you can do whatever you want. However, if you leave the 6th region, Cat Lord reminded Zhu Beiji. He was also shocked by Zhu Beiji's lechery. He had seen people robbing beauties before. However, he had never seen someone robbing thousands of beauties. Wang Kai didn't care about these words. Zhu Beiji was lustful. He had captured the enemies who wanted to destroy the transcending heaven church. He was ruthless and merciless to his enemies. So it didn't matter. On the other hand, those who claimed to be righteous but practiced crooked methods were extremely detestable. Wang Kai involuntarily rubbed his nose as he watched Zhu Beiji happily leave. He found it rather funny as he said, Strong enemies came to invade the sky-piercing church. Instead of taking their lives, they only took their women. This is also a kind of benevolence. Moreover, it seems that many of those women were very willing. Cat Lord has reminded you. Other than the 6th region, the other 5 regions have clear rules. If you cause trouble, I'm afraid. Cat Lord stopped talking at the end of his sentence. Wang Kai naturally understood what Cat Lord meant. However, it was good enough that Zhu Beiji didn't kill his enemies. As for the beauties, anyway, one was willing to be hit, and the other was willing to be hit. Little Yin Yin, little Shi, your husband is coming. Swoosh! Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly as he let out a frivolous chuckle. Then, he floated down the Holy Maiden Peak. However, no matter how Wang Kai probed with his divine sense or searched the entire Sanus Peak, he couldn't find any trace of Xia Xinyan and Yun Shi. Even the maidservants had disappeared. They hit it well. Did they purposely confuse Ben Shao? Wang Kai shrugged and smiled playfully. At first, he used his divine sense to find out that Xia Xinyan and Yun Shi had arrived at the Sanus Peak. However, when he rushed over, they had disappeared without a trace. Wang Kai believed that what he had found with his divine sense was an illusion deliberately set up by Xia Xinyan and Saintus Yunqi. In fact, they had never been to the Saintus Peak. With this thought in mind, Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and covered the entire sky-reaching church and the entire mountain range with his divine consciousness. However, in the end, he still couldn't find any trace of them. Wang Kai's brows immediately furrowed tightly. For a moment, he also felt extremely strange. Kid, don't waste your time. They have already left the sky-reaching sect. Catlord suddenly transmitted his voice and laughed. His tone was full of schadenfreude. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.